Part 62. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 613. Announcement of this site. In a dark space with a hint of chaotic whiteness, two battleships not far away from each other, a million miles away, were slowly approaching. Let their respective fleets retreat to the rear. The supreme ruler of the two fleets, who was also the most powerful at the time, approached the center. Jia Yan and Rongbo, these are two incredibly powerful beings. Their existence is a huge trouble for the 10 strong men in the desolate star. Therefore, one after another, Jia Yan and Rongbo are equivalent to being eliminated. They crowd out the barren galaxy. But the difference is that Jia Yan originally wanted to leave. If he collided with the top 10 strong men, no one knows what the current desolate galaxy will look like, and he will not be like Rongbo, who was killed by force. Out. This is also the real reason why Jia Yan dared to meet Rongbo alone, and even prepared to take the next action. He didn't know that the other party was also extremely confident in himself. The two approached extremely quickly. For Jia Yan, although the speed of the battleship is not as fast as that of the group flight, it is still a speed that his own flight cannot reach. At this moment, the distance between the two sides is slowly closing at the speed of thousands of miles. The opponent's strength is impossible for me to defeat. Of course, the true strength and weakness can only be determined in person. Jia Yan was lying on the command seat of the battleship. He looked at the screen in front of him and asked about the next step. The battle that followed had a touch of excitement. That's right. What he wants to do is not to replace him at all, but to defeat Rongbo when they meet. He has already made a judgment about his own strength. Even if he fights against opponents at the level of the top 10 powerhouses, he cannot lose. Even if the top 10 powerhouses join forces, he is no longer afraid. Jia Yan has always regretted that his strength did not reach its peak when fighting against the 5 powerful men. Otherwise, the battle might not have ended with him being forced to retreat. Now that he met a being who was at least the same level as Tengo, he could test his combat effectiveness. The distance between them was 3 to 4 million kilometers. With the battleship's already warmed up engines, it was actually not that far away. It didn't take long before the battleships from both sides were close to a distance of about 1,000 kilometers. Lord Rongbo, I think to show our sincerity, let's not drive battleships close to each other. How about that? When Rongbo drove Jia Yan and tried to get close to Jia Yan's suggestion came from the communicator. Huh? Not driving a battleship? Rongbo looked at Jia Yan in the video with some confusion. Could it be that the dignified Lord Rongbo is still afraid of my attack? Jia Yan said calmly across the screen. Haha, I just thought you had some tricks up your sleeve. Since you want to meet directly, let's do it this way. Rongbo's eyes flashed, and then he responded seemingly indifferently. However, after he closed the communication, he clicked on another communication channel. Sir, the one who appeared among them was the adjutant's subordinate. It seems that Jia Yan is really going to have a fight with me. Be prepared. If the other side's warships want to get closer to support him later, you can help me block them, Rongbo said to him. Okay. When his subordinate agreed, Rongbo turned off the communication and looked at the starry sky. Another warship thousands of miles away had opened its hatch, and a black monster flew towards the outside world. He couldn't help but snorted slightly. Jia Yan? A junior wants to play tricks in front of me. Since you are very confident in your own strength, then I will completely destroy your confidence. I believe you will cooperate with me well by then, right? Rongbo immediately stopped his battleship and headed out of the hatch. Two small black spots in the space flew closer slowly, much slower than the previous battleship speed. However, the area where the two are located is a space-distorted area. At this moment, they seem to be casual, but there are many places that need to be paid attention to during the flight, so even such a flight is extremely thrilling. 1,000 miles apart, For two powerful creatures, although there was some danger in the distorted space, they did not waste much time. Not long after, the distance between the two sides was close to within 3 kilometers. The distance of 3 kilometers is enough for the two to see each other's true face. So strong, from a distance, Jia Yan could see Rongbo's true appearance. Although his appearance was exactly the same as that in the video, the aura and energy of the other person were truly observed by Jia Yan at this moment. The opponent's energy was actually invisible, but the terrifying feeling still made Jia Yan a little shocked. Similarly, the energy on the surface of Jia Yan's body was also faintly condensed, and the other party also saw the scene in his eyes. Rongbo's eyes flashed with surprise as he flew closer, but he remained calm. Lord Rongbo, it seems that the description of you in the deserted galaxy is really wrong. Your power is really beyond my expectation. When the two were close to less than 500 meters, both sides stopped. This distance was already extremely dangerous for experts of their level. If they wanted to attack, it could be said that they were there in an instant. Haha, Master Jia Yan, isn't that the case? I heard before that you, a young expert, are so powerful. I still didn't believe it. Now that I have met you, I know that the rumors are completely wrong. You are actually stronger than me. It's even more terrifying than you can imagine. Energy surged from Rongbo's purple body. There was a bit of jealousy in his eyes. As a being whose lifespan is approaching, he must be extremely envious of a creature like Jia Yan who can tell he is extremely young and has such a powerful talent just by looking at him. Of course, he didn't know that Jia Yan had reached the level he was today and had survived countless deaths. If he knew, he might be able to feel less jealous. The distance between the two is extremely close, and their every move affects the hearts of all the subordinates on both sides. The long-distance signal is normal, and the other party does not seem to have activated signal interference. On the giant Mosquito fleet side, the transmission signal is completely normal, and the situation is shared to the entire fleet through video sharing on the Jia Yan battleship. The other side's fleet did the same thing. The battle situation at this moment has turned into a competition between the respective leaders of the two fleets. The battle between the two sides is temporarily over. Just look at the leadership of the two. How to play now? War or peace? Lord Jia Yan, you must not lose. I'm still waiting for you to keep your promise to me, thought with some worry as he looked at Kingsley's live broadcast. But Jia Yan and Rongbo, who were at the center of the battle, did not feel the mood of their respective subordinates. They were just looking at each other, completely in a confrontational attitude. Of these two star-level experts, one is 50 meters away and the other is 100 meters tall. Looking at their stature alone, Jia Yan is slightly inferior. But the strength of a strong person is not only judged by body size, but also by strength and momentum. Now their sense of energy is actually not much different. Then Master Jia Yan, can you tell me the information about the mysterious powerful man you mentioned? As long as you tell me, then I will give you the information about the central area of the Chaos Star territory with both hands. How about that? Rongbo looked at Jia Yan. The confrontation between the two men's momentum, and the faint tide of brainwave power actually caused the entire nearby area to churn, and the originally distorted space became even more chaotic. However, neither side had time to notice such a small change. They just looked at each other as if facing a formidable enemy. Lord Rongbo, Jia Yan spoke. He said calmly, you must have known my plan when I said, right? Our fleet's pursuit battle is just a waste of the strength of both sides. You didn't respond immediately, destroy my giant Mosquito fleet, and the pursuit will be in vain. After all, there is no way you can catch up with my fleet in this area. The reason why I propose to meet is very simple. As long as you can surpass me in personal strength, then whether it is about the secret of promotion or other questions, I will answer you. This is my answer. How? So, Master Rongbo, are you willing to reprimand? Haha Rongbo, who was standing not far from Jia Yan, was not surprised. You really had this idea. Since Mr. Jia Yan is willing to fight with me, what if I just give you some advice? But if you get hurt during the sparring session, don't blame me for being cruel. Haha, it's no use talking anymore. Let's do it. Those 5 powerful men can't hurt me at all. Let's see if Lord Rongbo can hurt me, Jia Yan snorted coldly. Rongbo also snorted coldly. The entire starry sky suddenly sounded a vibration that seemed real. It feels like the world is about to collapse. After the two sides disagreed, they took action directly. In other words, both of them were ready to take action on the way here. It's begun, who was millions of kilometers away, looked at the scene on the video screen and said nervously. Her hands were tangled together unconsciously, and her fingers were turning white. This is tense. You must know that Jia Yan's battle is not only related to Jia Yan himself, but also related to the future of nearly 10,000 lives of the entire fleet. If Jia Yan was defeated, would have no choice but to surrender, or wander around in the Chaos Star territory with a fleet that had lost its backbone. She had no confidence in leading the fleet to escape from the Chaos Star territory, or even in mastering the fleet that had lost Jia Yan. You must know that there are dozens of captains who are more powerful than her. If Jia Yan hadn't been here, how could she have obtained the position of marshal? Not only but all the fleet members on one side were extremely nervous. The entire fleet only joined the giant Mosquito fleet looking at the face and future of Jia Yan, a strong man. If Jia Yan had just set sail at this moment, if they lose, no one knows what will happen to this fleet that has no hope of recovery. No matter what the audience on the side thinks, the two beings in the battle are not in the mood to care at all. Ha ha ha. A cold body in space pressed towards Jia Yan, and its speed was astonishingly fast. Jia Yan looked at the opponent's flying trajectory, with a dignified luster flashing in his compound eyes. His body did not move, he just looked at the other person, which was beyond the limit that ordinary human eyesight could not see, and was approaching him. The moment the other person's body shape appears, Jia Yan's front foot was lifted up by lightning and flint. Rongbo's purple body has a pair of feet similar to Jia Yan's. On his body at this moment, it is his right front foot that rises with lightning, and it is also his right front foot that Jia Yan attacks. The two right front feet are watching the battle. They hit each other hard at a speed that no one could see clearly. At this moment, the brilliance of the distant chaotic stars seemed to have lost its color. The whole world is filled with silent waves. The next moment after the two sides collided, their figures suddenly disappeared from the sight of all spectators. I saw that in the entire cosmic area, explosive flames were constantly shining fiercely. This was when strong men were fighting. The extremely terrifying brainwave power caused a huge impact during the interlacing period, even in the vacuum without air. There was an extremely terrifying wave of explosions. In the space, the two terrifying monsters did not stop at all, leaving countless after-images directly in the darkness. The entire starry sky was constantly flashing with extremely terrifying battle light and shadow. One of the two monsters reaches the size of 50 meters, and the other reaches the terrifying level of 100 meters. The speed of both parties was unbelievably fast, contrary to the laws of physics. Although Jia Yan was one size smaller than his opponent, not only did he not lag behind in terms of momentum, he also had no chance of losing during the battle. This is a battle between the top starry sky level powerhouses and the top starry sky level powerhouses. The blows collided, and the bodies of both of them actually went backwards for several kilometers. Haha, sure enough. Master Jia Yan, your strength impressed me. It seems that you didn't try your best when dealing with those 5 fools. Even if you were willing, you couldn't fight against Tengo and the other 10 strong men. It's not necessarily a defeat. It's simply the strongest opponent I've encountered in recent years. It's awesome. It's really awesome. especially with your surging vitality and being so young, it makes me jealous. Waves of sound came out of Rongbo's mouth, shaking the whole world. Jia Yan was a little silent. He didn't understand even if he didn't make a move. As soon as he made a move, Jia Yan could see the weak body of the other party. The other party seemed to be older than Suao, even beyond the reach of a starry sky level, but he didn't know how to use it. How to maintain it? No wonder the other party would be so jealous after seeing Jia Yan's youth. Jia Yan's age is really too young. Even if he tells his true survival time, these old weirdos might all want to kill Jia Yan out of jealousy. A pair of front legs crossed each other in the starry sky. The entire starry sky burst into violent fire. The two bodies collided fiercely at a close distance, and then separated. Rongbo, your strength also makes me very surprised. I heard that you were driven out of the desolate star territory by the top 10 powerful men before, but now your strength seems to me that it is completely impossible for you to be driven out by them. Have you had any adventures here? If you are willing to tell me, I might spare your life later. Jia Yan was silent for a while and then said directly. Spare my life? Haha, do you think you can do it? Your strength is nothing more than this. Rongbo was so angry that he thought Jia Yan was trying to provoke him. My strength has almost reached the peak that the starry sky level can reach. In addition to the starry sky level venerable level, there are also those great beings who are half-star level. I am not afraid of anything at all. Jia Yan, do you think you are a starry sky level venerable? Are you at the level of a fighter? Stop dreaming. In my opinion, you haven't even reached the peak of starry sky level in brainwave power, and you still want to defeat me. It's just a dream. I advise you to teach me your secrets. Maybe when I am in a good mood, when I am promoted to the stellar level, I will let you live. Starry sky level venerable? Half a step to stellar level? When Jia Yan heard these two names, he immediately wrote them down. Although he didn't know how strong the men with these two titles were, he knew from the sounds that they were even more powerful than the current Rongbo. The battle between the two is about their confidence in themselves and their foundation. Rongbo is really strong, and Jia Yan, who is so powerful now, has really deployed 90% of his strength. The fluctuations in the battle between the two can even destroy an ordinary fleet. However, the strength of both sides still cannot tell the winner. Jia Yan found that the opponent's strength still had some reservations. Although he was secretly surprised, he didn't have any worries. Because he discovered that even if the opponent's strength doubled, there would not be much danger to his own defense, so Jia Yan was basically in an invincible position. And even if the opponent's strength is reserved, will it remain twice as strong as it is now? This is impossible. Jia Yan, you are indeed too strong, and you are still so young. It seems that I cannot defeat you without using all my strength. Be careful, don't die. I am still waiting to ask you the secret of your promotion. Then Rongbo saw that Jia Yan could not be restrained after a long battle. At the same time, he felt that if he continued to fight for a long time, his physical fitness would not be as good as that of the young Jia Yan. Maybe an accident would happen, so he suddenly used his last strength. It is also the true power of this top powerhouse. In the starry sky, Rongbo's purple body visibly turned into a black color similar to Jia Yan's. At the same time, the power of the strong man surged up in his body, faintly increasing by about 20%. To know that the strength of a star-level top powerhouse increased by 20%, it was simply a difference between heaven and earth. In addition, Rongbo's actual combat experience is far greater than that of Jia Yan, and the situation where they were tied before suddenly changed. Humph, it's really strong. Jia Yan also exploded with 10% of his strength, but after a collision, his body was knocked back. Where to escape? Rongbo suddenly flashed with joy when he saw that he had knocked back Jia Yan, who had the same explosive power, with one blow. He knew that Jia Yan couldn't resist the full strength he had unleashed. His body followed him like a shadow, sticking to Jia Yan. After his strength exploded, his speed also suddenly increased by 20%. Don't underestimate 20%, that is a completely different level of strength. Defeat me. Rongbo stabbed down with one of his front legs, trying to pierce Jia Yan's tail and abdomen, which was not a fatal part. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 614. Rongbo stabbed with his forefoot, while Jia Yan's eyes flashed with darkness. You actually think I can't dodge, and you deliberately attack my non-vital parts. Jia Yan felt a sneer in his heart. The other party seems to have not yet clearly judged his strength. Jia Yan himself knows that his strength can be judged not only by his current offensive and defensive modes, but also that he has always had a disadvantage in attack. This is a gap caused by experience and cannot be changed as his strength increases. This is like a strong man without any fighting skills. Although he can defeat 10 enemies with one strength, he may be at a disadvantage against a being of similar strength. But even so, Jia Yan's true strength cannot be defeated casually. It should even be said that his true strength will only be revealed after the opponent takes advantage. The front foot stabbed down, stabbing Jia Yan's tail and abdomen without any fancy. Yeah, but Rongbo's full of confidence suddenly changed after he stabbed Jia Yan. It turned out that where he stabbed Jia Yan's tail and abdomen, the sharp front feet were actually blocked by a layer of dim blue. What is this? He was stunned and stunned. However, Jia Yan would not miss this opportunity. He had known for a long time that his azure defense would not let him down, so at this moment, his body was ready to be stabbed directly by the tail needle. Jia Yan's tail needle shot a sharp golden light towards Rongbo's monster chest. No, Rongbo had just recovered from the shock, but he couldn't avoid it at this moment. He was so shocked that he hurriedly evaded to one side, but he was still one step too slow. The tail needle flashing with cold golden light pierced directly into Rongbo's side. A stream of blood shot up in space, and then, due to the adsorption force of the vacuum, endless blood spattered directly from Rongbo's wound. He was so horrified that he quickly squirmed the muscles near the wound and forced his wound to close. Only then did he force the wound to stop splattering blood. What's wrong with your body? How can you be so tough? Rongbo retreated wildly. Although he was injured, it is impossible for an ordinary starry sky level to greatly affect the combat effectiveness because of such an injury, so at this moment his speed he was still ahead of the chasing Jia Yan, and he awkwardly avoided Jia Yan's several forefoot thrusts. He, don't you understand? There are still many things you don't understand about my true strength. Jia Yan smiled faintly and did not answer. He just took advantage of the opponent's injury and continued to use moves to attack. His tail needle was also used at this moment. At the same time, Rongbo discovered with some horror that Jia Yan began to fight with him regardless of the consequences. Not only the front feet used in regular battles before, but also the midfoot, rear foot, and tail needle have joined the battle. Although he lacked combat experience, Jia Yan no longer avoided the opponent's attacks, and with his numerical advantage in attacking organs, he actually reversed his disadvantage in one breath and overpowered Rongbo to fight. How is it possible? You are obviously weaker than me. My power has reached the peak that can be reached by the starry sky level. Only the strong people at the Zun level and half-star level can defeat me. How can you suppress your strength? Me, Rongbo was confused by Jia Yan's series of attacks. What made him even more incomprehensible was that the opponent's fighting power was clearly inferior to his own, but he relied on his strange body defense to suppress Rongbo, who was clearly stronger than him. It was almost impossible to fight back. How is it impossible? This is my fighting style. Are you bullying me because my attack power is not as strong as yours? You think I don't have as much fighting experience as you? I'll just use a defense that you can't possibly break through, and beat you. My mother doesn't even know you. Jia Yan uttered harsh words while attacking. The opponent was almost unable to fight back due to Jia Yan's series of attacks, and as soon as his counter-attack was launched, Jia Yan would let his body directly bear it regardless, and Rongbo could not break through Jia Yan's azure defense at all, just leaving a mark on it. A little bit of white dot-like traces. At the same time as he attacks, Jia Yan will also launch an attack. Although he is dodged by the vigilant Rongbo, this fighting mode of not defending but only attacking is also extremely strange to Rongbo, who is extremely experienced in combat. His fighting style left him with no choice but to escape in embarrassment. This must be your talent. Damn it, if you can, fight me with your true fighting power, Rongbo roared angrily. Jia Yan looked at the almost crazy monster opponent in front of him with some surprise. There was some contempt in his eyes. The words the opponent said made him feel that the opponent's brain was not very good. What you are saying is that my body is also my own strength. I am too talented to fight like this? You old guy, you are still so childish at this age. If you want to blame me, blame your mother for not giving birth to you properly. Go to hell. Jia Yan made a mocking noise with brainwave power while launching his own attack on the opponent. It has to be said that although Rongbo is a little angry, his strength is definitely the strongest opponent Jia Yan has ever encountered so far. Even Lord Tengo, one of the top 10 strong men, is probably not his opponent. Jia Yan's attack only made him extremely embarrassed, but he couldn't hurt him as hard as last time. It's just that this guy seems to have the same problem as Suao, that is, he is too old. He is so old that when the battle is the most intense, he actually gets excited because of his emotions. He felt like fighting back against Jia Yan's attack. Although it is a little better than Suao, these small emotions are enough to put a strong man at an absolute disadvantage in a life and death battle. The speed of the two figures in the space became even faster, and both sides even penetrated into the twisted space at a certain moment, which made the fleet observers on both sides feel worried. However, they appeared again soon. Neither of them was frightened by the surrounding environment. Although they did not reach the star level and encountered real space distortion, they were still likely to cause serious injuries. However, Jia Yan and Rongbo were already at full strength. In the battle, the two sides fought until they had no time to pay attention to the dangerous environment around them. An extremely exciting battle lasts for more than 10 minutes. For starry sky-level beings, 10 minutes is enough for them to fight hundreds or even thousands of life and death rounds. After fighting back and forth, Jia Yan could not do anything to Rongbo, and Rongbo, who should have an absolute advantage in strength, could not do anything to Jia Yan. And something even more terrifying was slowly discovered by Rongbo. Your endurance, feeling the gradual loss of physical strength, Rongbo was horrified to find that the opponent's fighting power seemed to have not changed from the beginning, as if he had not lost any physical strength at all. Jia Yan struck out with a thrust from his forefoot. Rongbo hurriedly blocked it, but due to his strength, he slowly drew closer and was knocked away by the blow. Haha, it seems that you have discovered another one of my combat advantages, a faint voice sounded from behind Jia Yan's gently stretched out forefoot. You, what kind of monster are you? Rongbo asked in fear. He couldn't tolerate being frightened anymore. He had been calm and confident from the beginning, but now he was completely frightened by Jia Yan's actual combat feeling. This was not because the opponent's strength was too much greater than his, but because of the weirdness of Jia Yan's body. More than he imagined. It's not just the terrifying defense power, at least this point is now recalled by Rongbo. It seems that there was some description in the message sent by Palin through the secret channel, but there is another point that even Palin doesn't know, and that is this Jia Yan's amazing fighting endurance. For a strong man of this level, sometimes it is possible to fight for days and nights. In the later stage, the competition is endurance and physical fitness. Normally, for a starry sky level existence, if the level is about the same, the physical fitness will be higher. The gap will not be too big, so there are still some special cheats and experts studying how to preserve physical energy in a protracted battle. But Jia Yan, who was fighting with Pai Lan, realized that this being who was in a similar realm to himself, yet had endless physical abilities that violated the laws of physics. Impossible! Impossible! Pai Lan ran away in fear and fled to the rear. He was afraid. That's right, he who claims to be a Starry Sky level superpower is actually afraid of Jia Yan, the new top Starry Sky level powerhouse. You must know that this is not a simple matter. Even if Jia Yan, a strong man, has reached the top level of the Starry Sky, because of his sparse combat experience and combat skills, it is impossible for ordinary real top Starry Sky powerhouses to see it. This is why Rongbo is not afraid at all after knowing that Jia Yan is just a young Starry Sky peak monster. Combat experience cannot be mastered overnight. This is why he has no fear of his own battle with Jia Yan. Extremely confident. But he is the one running away now. This scene was not only beyond Rongbo's own expectations, but even the Rongbo fleet on one side was extremely frightened. To know the existence of this fleet, they are completely aware of Rongbo's strength. They have no worries at all about whether Rongbo can defeat Jia Yan. They are just preparing for the opponent's fleet to come to support Jia Yan. Master Rongbo is actually running away. Impossible. Then what trick did Jia Yan use? It's so abominable. How could our invincible Lord Rongbo lose? Yes, Master Rongbo even protected us from escaping in front of the previous chaos monsters. He can still escape, but will he be defeated by Jia Yan? Impossible. A member of Ming Rongbo's fleet couldn't believe it. However, the adjutant of the fleet was indeed a wise subordinate whom Rongbo trusted greatly. Although he was shocked by Rongbo's disadvantage at this moment, he still issued the order extremely calmly. Quickly, go meet Mr. Rongbo. This is not a loss for you, it's just that the other party took advantage of Mr. Rongbo's age. You need our help even more now. Think about how you saved us in the past, he shouted loudly. Shouted? Yes. Sir Rongbo once took risks for us and helped us survive many crises. No matter whether he loses or not, we must save him, a subordinate suddenly came to his senses. That's right, Lord Rongbo treats us well. Go rescue him quickly. This is just a mistake by Lord Rongbo. If you try it again, maybe you won't lose to the opponent. Hundreds of warships in the entire Rongbo fleet started to move. But they were a little depressed to find that the distant giant Mosquito fleet was also moving at this moment. In the giant Mosquito fleet, Kama's voice of encouraging everyone also sounded loudly. Everyone, move. Did you see that our Lord Jia Yan is invincible? Even Rongbo, who seems to have reached the top of the Starry Sky level, easily defeated him. How can we, as your Lord's subordinates, defeat him? Embarrassing. Move quickly and entangle the opponent's fleet. Following Kama's voice, the hot-blooded giant Mosquito fleet soldiers moved quickly to their posts. At this moment, they didn't care whether the opponent's fleet was several times that of their own, or whether the opponent's combat weapons were more advanced than their own. At this moment, they saw the battlefield Vice Admiral Rongbo, the strongest man in the opponent's fleet and the highest leader. They were all chasing him up to the sky and into the earth, looking extremely embarrassed, and some pride suddenly rose. The supreme leader of his fleet is an extremely powerful Starry Sky level expert. Even Rongbo, the veteran strongest expert, is no match for him. Originally, these fleet soldiers would join the giant Mosquito fleet because of Jia Yan's personal strength, but now Jia Yan's strength has exceeded their imagination. Of course, they are extremely excited, thinking that they have followed the right leader. If you don't show off now, then when will you wait? Anyway, the opposing fleet is also caught in the chaos of saving the top leader, so it is unlikely that they will be in danger. The fleets that were originally far away from both sides were actually getting closer again at this moment. Humph, the opponent's giant Mosquito fleet actually dares to approach. Do you think we won't attack if Master Rongbo is not here? They underestimate us. Second Army, prepare for artillery fire to scare them back. The adjutant in the Rongbo fleet issued an order at this moment, but the other subordinates actually obeyed his order and went directly into combat alert. Fortunately, the giant Mosquito fleet was only trying to contain them. They quickly approached and then lingered at the opponent's furthest attack range. Both sides launched attack rays. The light attacks, which were nearly 10,000 kilometers apart, were about the same whether they were hit or not. However, the two were entangled, making both sides temporarily unable to enter the battle area of the two strong men to help. At this moment, Jia Yan and Na Rongbo turned into another scene. They were constantly flying in the vacuum, chasing after them. But unlike the previous chase between battleships, it was Rongbo who chased Jia Yan. Now when the real person PK started, it was Jia Yan who let out a bad breath and chased Rongbo until he was extremely panicked. When he was dispatched before, Rongbo never thought about this situation. Jia Yan, as a human being, keep a line. Although I, Rongbo, have been forced to this point, I still have friends. There is even a starry sky level venerable among them. Although you have a terrible defense, the venerable's attack will definitely he can kill you easily, so be careful. If I tell him the secret of your promotion, then you will be dead. Rongbo fled quickly in front, but there was no way to pull Jia Yan away. He only felt that his physical energy was disappearing quickly. Jia Yan behind him seemed to have not lost too much energy yet, and his flying speed had not lost at all. Nothing. As he got closer and closer, he had no choice but to make threatening remarks. Haha, Rongbo, do you think I will be scared by your childish remarks? Besides, I really want to see how powerful a venerable is. If you have the ability to communicate with him, you can give it a try, Jia Yan said with some disdain. What a shame. You can't understand His Majesty's strength. Rongbo finally figured it out. Jia Yan was indeed a brat. This brat dared to say and do anything, but now he really had nothing to do with him. Fight, but you can't fight. Escape, it seems you can't escape. Let me tell you, in front of you is a space-distorted place that I expended manpower to explore. If you have the ability, follow me and enter there. You won't even know how you died, Rongbo said fiercely to Jia Yan who was behind him. After saying a sentence, the speed suddenly increased. He used an explosive technique that instantly increased his speed. This technique was something that even Jia Yan had not mastered. However, for Jia Yan, even if the opponent's explosive force was stronger, it would not be able to break through his own defense. Rongbo must have having seen this, he probably just used the power of the explosion to escape. His speed surged far away for a while, but he only maintained it for less than 2 minutes, and then gradually slowed down. Looking at Rongbo's sense of power, which suddenly fell thousands of feet, a ray of light flashed quickly in Jia Yan's eyes. Then he moved and sped up to catch up with Rongbo. But at the moment Jia Yan was about to chase the opponent, I saw a twist in Rongbo's 100-meter-long body. His figure seemed to become more slender in the dark space, and then the purple color on his body transformed directly in front of Jia Yan. It turns into gray color, and then the body disappears into nothingness. It sounds complicated, but this process can be said to have happened in a flash. For Jia Yan, these changes occurred at a time that was impossible to avoid. At this moment, he had no time to avoid, so he ran into the area where Rongbo had twisted and disappeared. Inside. In this area, Jia Yan suddenly felt a strange fluctuation in his body, and then his blue defense suddenly lit up. However, the power in this area did not seem to be dangerous. Jia Yan's blue defense did not block any attacks. It only brightened for a moment and then calmed down. He only felt that his body was beginning to get tangled at this moment, and the whole body was twisted. Sometimes it was twisted into a long strip, and sometimes it was twisted into a twist shape, which was extremely terrifying. Where is this? Could it be the place of space distortion that Rongbo just mentioned? I originally thought he was scaring me, but I didn't expect it to be true. Jia Yan's heart became a little gloomy, and he forced himself to calm down in response to all the weird situations around him. He had never experienced anything like this before. Although he didn't feel any pain, seeing his body twisting and deforming, the weird feeling of shock was not something that an average person could bear. No, since Rongbo dares to enter, it means that the danger here must be controllable, or in other words, it is not extremely dangerous for strong men of our level. Jia Yan analyzed calmly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 615. Although Jia Yan is confident in his defense power, he is not arrogant enough to think that he can run rampant in the universe. For starters, you must know that there are countless places of life and death crisis in the entire universe, even for star-level beings. For example, black holes, various interstellar radiations, explosions of dark matter, etc. Unfortunately, the space distortion faced at this moment is also one of the crises that the stellar powerhouses fear. But if Rongbo dares to enter, he must be sure of it. He also said just now that he spent a lot of manpower exploring here, and there should be a way out. Jia Yan forced himself to calm down, and the bright light in his eyes never dimmed. He drifted forward. There seemed to be no huge danger in this twisted space. However, Jia Yan's tense nerves did not relax because of this. You must know that the more this situation happens, the more danger is waiting for him. Jia Yan didn't believe that Rongbo had no backup preparations when he burst out all his power into this moment. Jia Yan controlled his body to move back a little, but the back of his body could no longer touch the vacuum area behind him. It was obviously only a short distance away from the area he entered, but he could not return no matter what. It seems that this is indeed a space-distorted area. Jia Yan's heart sank a little. Jia Yan didn't know much about the space distortion area. This was knowledge he only learned after reading some starry sky textbooks on a long trip recently. This kind of area only appears in some areas where stars explode, and in forbidden areas for travel. As one of the forbidden areas, Chaos Star territory has a twisted space. Everyone knows it, but what Jia Yan doesn't know is that they already have it. After traveling in the twisted space, there is actually a twisted space in this twisted space. It is simply something that he cannot understand. This kind of space is probably difficult for people on Earth to understand, or many people on Earth cannot understand the fact that there is space distortion in the universe. However, in fact, even scientific researchers on Earth have predicted it a long time ago. To the space in the universe, it will not be a flat problem. It was only after Jia Yan actually went out into the universe that he discovered that the space distortion problem in the universe is much larger than imagined. If strictly speaking, the gravitational wave system can also be regarded as a kind of space distortion, and the Anglibi spacecraft, the ability to travel through space artificially, creates a small distortion of space to some extent. The space distortion scene we see now is an extreme version of space distortion. It may have been caused by a star explosion thousands of billions of years ago, or a distorted phenomenon mapping of the universe itself. In short, it slowly evolved into the terrifying twisted crisis now displayed in front of Jia Yan. Jia Yan's body could not reach the retreat route behind him. At this moment, a shining luster appeared in his compound eyes. After that, his body no longer stayed, but flew forward. No matter what lies ahead, he must find a way to escape as soon as possible. Not to mention that the longer he stays in such a dangerous place, the greater the danger he will be in. He only talks about the giant mosquito fleet in the outside world without his presence. Rongbo's subordinates, nearly 1,000 battleships, destroyed them with ease. Just as Jia Yan flew into the air, he suddenly felt a sense of crisis suddenly emerge on his right side. Although a purple figure was not as fast as before, it appeared strangely directly on the right side of Jia Yan's body. His front foot stabbed lightly, leaving a faint stab on the surface of Jia Yan's blue body. The light spot then retreated again. Rongbo. Just as Jia Yan turned around, the body that had sneaked up on him had already turned around strangely and fell into the twisted space behind him. Jia Yan's middle foot stabbed out and hit the air. I see, that's what he had in mind. After Jia Yan discovered the other party's actions, he felt happy in his heart. All creatures fear the unknown most. As long as the opponent shows an attack stance, Jia Yan knows that the opponent does not really want to use the natural dangers of this area to attack him. It seems that Rongbo used his familiarity with this twisted land to attack Jia Yan. As long as he can't break through my defense, I will be invincible. Jia Yan calmed down and put on a defensive posture towards the surrounding situation. At the same time, he controlled his body to float forward. Since Rongbo dared to enter here, there must be other exits. Jia Yan did not believe that the other party attracted Jia Yan here with the idea of dying with him. Jia Yan, just as Jia Yan was walking forward, Rongbo stepped out from behind, like a body following Jia Yan's back. Jia Yan felt a chill in his heart, and his hind feet instantly shot out with lightning, and rushed towards Rongbo's area. The distance between the two sides was not far, and Jia Yan had already been prepared, so his rear foot that jumped up could be said to arrive in an instant. But Rongbo just took a step back calmly. Jia Yan's attack actually entered the twisted space. He only saw his hind feet twisting, and a faint pain spread to his body, causing him to quickly move his hind feet. Take it back. The hind foot did not attack Rongbo, but instead had a sparkling blue surface, indicating that he had been framed by Rongbo's plan before, and there was actually a crisis. This twisted space is indeed dangerous. Jia Yan looked at his almost injured hind foot and was shocked. He immediately did not dare to attack or move casually. But Rongbo's huge body sprang out strangely from another direction. Stop moving. Although the crisis here is not as dangerous as a real dangerous place, in my opinion it is enough to cause you serious injury or even death. Jia Yan, there is no life or death hatred between us, why don't we talk about it? He said in his own voice before Jia Yan attacked. Jia Yan, who was about to attack, paused for a moment, then stopped with a vague luster in his compound eyes. Rongbo saw that Jia Yan stopped attacking and stopped moving his body. To put it bluntly, he was also wary of Jia Yan's attack. After all, the previous explosion wasted too much strength. At this moment, he was also wary of Jia Yan's attack. It means fear. Rongbo, you were the one who attacked me first, and now it's you who said not to attack me. It's up to you to decide whether to fight or not. Isn't this a joke? Jia Yan looked at the huge purple monster less than 200 meters away. The figure said with some disdain. Okay, I admit that my previous approach was somewhat wrong. Jia Yan, you are also a being of my level. You must understand the pain of our inability to advance to the star level, right? Knowing that you have the secret of promotion, let alone me, even a starry sky level venerable and a half-step star level will definitely be tempted. What I do to you is reasonable. Rongbo stood not far away and said a little unnaturally. Understand? Haha, I'm sorry, I am destined to enter the star level in the future. I have no understanding of what you said about not being able to be promoted, Jia Yan sneered, and then spoke without waiting for the other party to explain. He turned around and said, so you want to say that the battle with me was an accident? To tell you the truth, I have no clue what mysterious strong man I told you, let alone the secret of promotion. What? Then why did you just say that you have the secret to increase the success rate of promotion by 20%? Rongbo's expression changed drastically, and he almost yelled. If I didn't lie to you, how could you meet me directly like this? Maybe our fleets are still engaged in meaningless pursuit battles in the boundless chaotic star field. Urongbo has time, Jia Yan, time is precious, and I don't have time to play the game of eagle and chicken with you. Jia Yan smiled coldly. Lied to me? Impossible. How do you explain that great existence? She really appeared, Rongbo yelled angrily. Great existence. It's just something you've imagined. I've never seen any great existence. In other words, what is the great existence you think it is? Jia Yan shook his head strangely, and the other party grabbed the so-called great existence. The point of great existence has always puzzled him. Faintly, he felt as if there was a huge terrifying shadow surrounding him, and his heartbeat was slightly accelerated at this moment. You don't know she exists? Haha, you don't know. Rongbo was also startled, and then burst into laughter. But the video file of Palin has never been tampered with, not to mention that my subordinates reported it with their own eyes. The only explanation is that you are not aware of this situation, ha ha ha. A person who is watched by a great being guy, you don't even know about the existence of the great existence, it makes me laugh to death. Rongbo's burst of laughter made Jia Yan's somewhat overwhelmed heart even more depressed. He seemed to be able to understand what the other party said, but he was a little too frightened to think about it. Could it be that everything I do has been under the watchful eye of a certain existence? No, I can't accept this, Jia Yan thought, a little depressed. But thinking of the scene in the battle at the collection point that he couldn't understand, Jia Yan's unwillingness to believe it slowly disappeared. So what exactly is the so-called great existence? What a terrifying existence. How could Rongbo know what this existence said? What did she say that made Rongbo attack and intercept her like this? Jia Yan was thinking about all this crazily. Jia Yan, I really feel sad for you. I think that great existence just treats you as a toy. Don't you know how powerful this existence is? Let me tell you, her strength is probably even better in the stars. Above the level. Ha ha ha, I thought before that you would be related to that existence and not harm you. Now it seems that you are just a toy of the great existence. Maybe people have stopped paying attention to you. Rongbo laughed loudly, and at the same time regretted that he did not dare to hurt Jia Yan before. If he had known about this earlier, he might not be in this miserable situation now. The previous fleet attack might have wiped out the entire giant Mosquito fleet. Destroyed, Jia Yan would end up fleeing in the starry sky, which would greatly increase his chances of capturing Jia Yan. At least it wouldn't be as miserable as it is now. Thinking of this, he felt great hatred in his heart. Even though he had taken advantage of the twisted space here, in fact the dangers and rules here were very simple. As long as Jia Yan delayed for a while, he could easily find the people here. According to the rules, not only can he escape from this twisted land, but he may also be able to directly kill him who is a little weak at the moment. Thinking of this, he stopped mocking Jia Yan and said with a ferocious smile, Jia Yan, no matter whether that great being is watching you or not, at least it has definitely happened that she said you have the secret method of promotion. You think carefully, is this method in your mind? We still have the possibility of cooperation. As long as you say it, I will take you out of here, let your fleet leave, and even promise to tell your Chaos Star I'll tell you the secret of the domain center. Just think about it. Jia Yan's mind was still in chaos at this moment, and he felt that he couldn't accept the other party's words for a moment. What great existence, what observation, what secret method of promotion, made Jia Yan himself a little confused. How did he know the secret method of promotion? Even if he searched his entire mind, he couldn't find any information. After half the payment, Jia Yan shook his head with a headache, gradually raised his head and looked at Rongbo. I don't know the secret method at all. The transaction you mentioned is probably impossible. If you want to fight, then fight. After saying this, Jia Yan put on a fighting stance. Impossible. If you think about it again, many great beings are psychopathic lunatics. If you think about it carefully, maybe. Rongbo shouted anxiously. In order to obtain Jia Yan's so-called promotion secret, even the scarce life-renewing stones have been used up. After a hard battle, if Jia Yan can only get an answer of "I don't know the secret method at all," then he will really lose his wife and lose his troops, completely. Fail. In this moment of anxiety, he actually said words that harmed that great being. Just when Jia Yan wanted to reply to his remarks. Standing in front of Jia Yan, Rongbo's eyes froze. His eyes suddenly widened, and then a pair of front feet covered his neck, as if he was suddenly attacked by some strange attack, and he felt extremely painful. At the same time, Jia Yan on the side was also shocked. All he felt was a sudden surge of power in his body. It obviously did not belong to him, but it still surged out crazily. This power seemed to come from an endless and distant place, directly across the vast starry sky. It could be said that Rongbo was directly restrained by lightning and flint. What's going on? Jia Yan looked at the power gushing out of his body, and then felt a little shocked as he kept sensing everything around him. He suddenly felt that when this power appeared, although it was obviously only a very thin point, even the squirming space around him was faintly shaken. The distortion of the space stopped directly, and even the entire space seemed to be filled with that force. The vast aura of power. This is simply unimaginable power unleashed by a strong man. At this moment, Jia Yan suddenly understood that the being releasing power was the great being who was observing him. At the same time, he also recalled that this was not the first time he had seen this power. It turns out it's her. Jia Yan was shocked. Along with the appearance of this terrifying force, a slight laughter sounded in the space. This voice was extremely clear, vaguely like a girl from Earth, and also like a woman full of mature charm. Growling. The voice echoed throughout the moment, and it was simply astonishingly weird. Rongbo desperately resisted the other party's power, but no matter how hard he struggled, the other party's force around his neck could not be broken away at all. Great existence, there was a look of despair in his eyes. He looked at the space where there was nothing in front of him, but he seemed to be able to see a terrifying existence appearing in front of him. I just wanted to watch from the sidelines. Who told you to scold me? Crazy. I really like it. You gave me such a good nickname. I want to reward you well. Tell me, what do you want? What reward? Feeling his neck being tightened more and more, Rongbo had panic in his eyes. He didn't really believe in the great existence at first, because let alone he had never seen such an existence, it was impossible to have it even in the vast starry sky nearby. Only in legends, thousands or tens of thousands of years ago, there were rumors of great existences, but he did not expect that today he would actually see such a legendary existence with his own eyes. And this great existence wants to reward him. No. Don't kill me, I'm sorry. Rongbo hesitated and said a few words, then spurted a mouthful of blood from his mouth. His entire head was crushed without any resistance. The body that had lost its head seemed to still have a little bit of life, and it continued to tremble on the spot. But he still couldn't save himself. After 10 minutes, he slowly lost the breath of life. Jia Yan was about to deal with a top star level being like a formidable enemy, but he was killed like a child by the hands of this great being. After watching the scene of his opponent's death for 10 minutes, Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed with a vague luster. He wanted to escape in his heart, but his body seemed to have taken root and he did not dare to move at all. The opponent's momentum was too terrifying. Even if Jia Yan was not targeted, he was suppressing him as if he were under the weight of Mount Tai, making him almost unable to move. Of course, it is not impossible for Jia Yan to move, but he understands that his own movement is useless. The opponent's energy comes from within his body, and it is easier to kill him. That weird and terrifying existence didn't make any sound until Rongbo's huge body without his head became silent, as if it had left. However, her aura has always filled the starry sky of the Twisted Land. "Young man, are you scared?" Suddenly, the terrifying voice resounded directly in Jia Yan's mind. Jia Yan was shocked. "Great senior, although I am a little surprised that you are really paying attention to me, I still thank you for helping me deal with such a formidable enemy," he said directly without any hesitation. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 616. Although Jia Yan was extremely reluctant to have everything about him being watched by an unknown creature, it was impossible for him to really utter any rebuttal at this moment. After all, the other party was so powerful that he didn't even need to look at it to understand it. How powerful is the rock? Even Rongbo, who could compete with Jia Yan in a life and death battle, had no power to resist and was killed directly by him. What's even more frightening is that the other party's real body doesn't know how far away he is doing this. Ho ho, don't you blame me for taking the initiative and observing you. But don't worry, I just check on you occasionally. I don't know most of your things. The female voice was faint. Smiled. Her voice is very clear. If it were a girl from Earth, her voice alone would surely attract the attention of many men. But Jia Yan didn't pay attention to her voice, but was shocked by how weird it was. Don't worry. Even if I want to observe someone from tens of thousands of light years away through a little energy entanglement, it is impossible. Moreover, there is no value for you to let me spend more energy. The power is attentive. I can tell you my purpose. I don't have any ill intentions towards you. I am just observing the existences that may advance to our level. And you are just one of the many young people who have a glimmer of possibility. 1. There are countless existences like you. However, I am a little disappointed with your performance. You are obviously a person with great potential, but you have been stuck like this all your life. I don't think you have much potential. This is why I deliberately took this opportunity to consume all my energy. This time after that, the energy I left in your body will be completely exhausted, and in the vast universe, I look forward to the day we meet again in the future. There was a hint of disappointment in his voice as he spoke, and the tone seemed to become thinner and about to disappear. When he was speaking before, Jia Yan could hardly say anything. It seemed that his body was suppressed by a force of energy, making him unable to have an effective conversation at all. However, at this moment, the opponent's power has relaxed, and the sense of oppression surrounding Jia Yan seems to have fundamentally disappeared, and is about to completely dissipate. Jia Yan's heart moved, and he quickly shouted out his voice with the power of his brainwaves. "Senior, if you have been watching me, you will know my situation. What should I do if I want to return to my own star field? 10,000 light years, to me, is also extremely far away. With your strength, it would be difficult to be able to travel in person. It's best for you to pursue the path of technology." The female voice spoke lightly, her voice getting farther and farther away, and then completely disappeared in the vacuum. Jia Yan was a little surprised to find that an energy inside his body that he had noticed but always thought belonged to him had faintly disappeared at this moment. It turns out that this power is not mine at all, but belongs to this being. Jia Yan said with a complicated expression. He still didn't know that the powerful existence in the universe could be so powerful. It's almost as scary as when Jia Yan was a human being. He read about the powerful men in those fantasy novels. She said that her power has completely disappeared. I can't believe it, but it seems that she really doesn't see any shadow. Jia Yan checked himself, and there seemed to be no trace of the power from the outside world. This made Jia Yan feel relieved in his heart. You must know that he absolutely does not like that his words and deeds may be observed by other beings. What kind of freedom is there in that way? Think about it carefully. This being has been observing me since I was in Yingxian's arm, right? It's simply terrifying. Jia Yan slowly recalled everything about this being. This memory from before seemed to be sealed by Jia Yan. He didn't want to think about it, and he didn't know if it was the power of the other party attached to his body that was affecting him. Now that I hear each other's voice again, I have memories. That star-level master of the Zerg race. Thinking of how many years ago, Jia Yan once had contact with that master of the Zerg race outside the gray-yellow star. Even now, Jia Yan can't see the opponent's strength. And the other party at that time released a power that was even greater than the strong man's own strength. Now think about it, the one who released that power was the great existence we just saw. She was possessed by me at that time, right? After all these years, everything about me has been under the watchful eye of such an existence. Fortunately, the other party doesn't seem to care about my strength anymore. My secret, she doesn't care at all about the identity of the evolved beast. It's probably because the difference in strength level is too big. Thinking of the other party's unfathomable strength, Jia Yan also understood that his so-called secret might be no more than a joke to the other party. After checking for a long time, he really couldn't see any wrong energy in his body. Only then did Jia Yan come back to his senses from the inspection with some relief. The space in front of me didn't know when it returned to its twisted and weird appearance again. Rongbo's corpse, with his head and body separated, was floating quietly not far away. Facing a strong man of a great level, even if he had any life-saving means, it would be impossible for him to use them. Of course, he would die. I can't die anymore. Looking at the starry sky level expert who had been fighting life and death with him before when Jia Yan was also a little emotional. In the face of a great being, Rongbo, a strong man who was not much different from him in strength, died so easily. Huh? What is that? Just when Jia Yan was looking at Rongbo's body, he saw a twinkling thing floating next to his headless body. This is an ultra-long-distance communicator. Jia Yan learned the name of this object through his recent knowledge. Thinking that Rongbo once said that he had a friend who was a star-level venerable, Jia Yan's heart became a little gloomy. The other party was actually dying and was going to cause him some trouble. He didn't know that the communicator was taken away. How many secrets about him? Forget it, let's see what trophies he has on him. Jia Yan thought about it and no longer cared about the so-called Lord of the Starry Sky. He just saw a great being, a powerful person at the level of the Lord. It's nothing, and Jia Yan doesn't realize how much he will lose to the beings at the venerable level. Considering his strength, whether the beings at the venerable level are stronger than him will only be known after fighting. Use the power of brain waves to first remove the intellectual brain from Rongbo's body. Generally, the intelligent brain of strong people is not locked. This is their confidence in themselves. Generally, strong people have confidence in their own strength and do not believe that they will be killing, for the sake of daily convenience, is not locked, so as to avoid the trouble of unlocking when using it. At this moment, Jia Yan removes the opponent's brain and can directly activate Rongbo's personal records and viewing information. Except for the brain and a suit of armor, there is nothing else, but the alien technology basically solves most things with a single brain. There was no other gain, so Jia Yan was not disappointed. The armor was useless to him. At this moment, Jia Yan hastily collected the opponent's brain and flew directly in this twisted place to check the way out. Sure enough, the distortion here is not too dangerous. Rongbo must have considered his own safety when he brought me here. Jia Yan walked a few places and found that except for the distortion of space, there was no other dangers, and only a part of the distortion were slightly dangerous to him. As long as he avoided them, he would be safe. Not long after, Jia Yan found the exit. There is a place that, although twisted, is slightly more stable than other places. Unfortunately, there are no treasures here. With these regrets, Jia Yan flashed and rushed out of this slightly stable twisted space. In this twisted space, Jia Yan experienced a lot of changes. First, he fought with Rongbo, and then the strange and great existence appeared. After several things, he left his body. The hidden danger of having an old grandfather in Jia Yan's body was eliminated. However, for people outside, the battle between Jia Yan and Rongbo was unknown in the twisted space. They were just watching to see who would come out last. Huh? The giant mosquito fleet is at a disadvantage. As soon as Jia Yan appeared, he found that his fleet, not far from the twisted space, was being chased by opponents nearly 10 times more numerous than himself, and was almost defeated. After all, there is not only a gap in numbers between the two sides, but also a huge gap in the experience of the personnel. It is very normal for them to be at a disadvantage. If Kama's commanding skills hadn't made up for the experience gap of many personnel, the giant mosquito fleet might have been defeated in a short period of time. Humph. Now that Rongbo is dead, let me show you how terrifying a strong man can be in a group battle. Jia Yan didn't think much and flew directly over there. The battle between the two sides has already reached a fever pitch. Although Kama is very professional in the art of command, she is not very experienced. Plus, the other party seems to have a commander who is not bad. At this moment the giant mosquito fleet was crumbling under the fire of the opponent's group fire. The opponent's group shooting has started again. Hold on, as long as you can withstand this attack, the second column in the rear will be able to reach the predetermined position and launch a flank attack on them. In the Kudatan Camp-class spaceship with the energy shield opened, Kama was constantly mobilizing troops and potential commanders. She was sweating a little on her forehead. The command skills of the opponent's commander did not seem to be weaker than hers. This was not because of her lack of talent. There are some things that just talent is not enough, and the gap in experience is enough for Karma to suffer a big loss. Faced with a complete disadvantage, Kama had already sent a group of 20 warships to dive ahead to occupy the right to speed up. Now the speed of the 20 warships has been accelerated to no less than 1/5 of the speed of light. You must know the speed. The two fleets are fighting at this moment. The overall speed does not exceed 1% of the speed of light. A group of 20 warships with 1/5 of the speed of light suddenly rushes into the battle circle and can definitely set off a wave. But whether this spray is good or bad for the giant mosquito fleet is unknown. But it was obvious that the other party was not willing to let them make waves. No. The breakout column sent a signal. In front of their column, they encountered an enemy team that also accelerated to 1/5 of the speed of light. Apparently the opponent had been prepared, a correspondent shouted with his eyes blackened. Karma's vision also turned black. She knew that she was careless. The opponent's fleet was much stronger than the giant mosquito fleet. She could think of using 20 warships to seize the right to accelerate. How could the opponent not think of it? It's just that the opponent's column has been hidden before, and its appearance at this moment caught the giant mosquito fleet by surprise. Just now, I clearly wanted to engage in a delaying battle, but I didn't expect that the other party's command skills were better than mine. Unknowingly, my fleet was dragged into a life-or-death duel with them. Under the disadvantage of numbers, how is it possible to win? Karma thought in a daze. There must be some way. Kama, aren't you a well-known genius in the kingdom? How could you, known as the General Princess, lose here? Kama straightened his messy hair, and the beauty looked haggard. There was also a hint of pity in his appearance, but no one paid attention to it at the moment. But with the enemy outnumbered, even if Karma grabbed countless hairs, he couldn't come up with any good plan. We can only let one news after another, bad war reports come in one after another. No, the 025 ship's shield is broken and it may crash in 3 minutes. Ship 015 sent the final message. I wish Marshal Yu and Mr. Jia Yan a prosperous military career. The ship was seriously damaged. The captain decided to ram the enemy fleet in 1 minute in order to obtain large-scale damage from the other side. Karma listened to the messages in his ears, and a look of despair surged in his eyes. She seemed to have heard similar sounds. At this moment, her body was trembling slightly, and she felt a little defeated. Just when she was ready to hear the news that the 015 battleship was destroyed in a direct battle with 7 or 8 enemy battleships that she had sent to the front line a minute later. Huh. This is it. Signal from Lord Jiayan's battleship. Lord Jiayan is back. The battle with Rongbo was won by Lord Jiayan. Lord Jiayan is back. The Kuditan man responsible for observing the data shouted loudly, seeming to be extremely excited about Jiayan's return. Of course, it wasn't just him, all the members on the side also started drinking with great excitement. Even Karma's eyes lit up. She quickly looked at the virtual sandbox in the battle situation. I saw a light and shadow in the sand table, although it looked small, but it was like a bolt of lightning, rushing towards the center of the battle. Sure enough, in the starry sky, a fast single-man battleship appeared, faintly like a terrifying behemoth, directly impacting towards the center of the battle. In this battleship, Jiayan was lying on the operator's seat, looking at the battle situation in front of him. Not only was he not dissatisfied with Kama, but he was fundamentally satisfied with his subordinate's command ability. Kama is really good. I only gave her less than 100 warships, and this guy actually hasn't lost one yet. But several of them are in crisis. Jiayan saw in the battle, a 015 ship he had been on. At this moment, the shield had completely broken, and it was precariously crashing into the group of opponent warships. It was obvious that they were going to fight to the death. He operated his battleship and rushed over there. During its collision, the brainwave power suddenly turned on. In the entire cosmic area, there seemed to be a terrifying solidifying force that controlled the entire world. In the current battle situation, the warships of both sides are in a fierce fighting situation, so in response to Jiayan's arrival, Rongbo's fleet cannot effectively distance itself. Even if there are warships attacking Jiayan's warship, but under the protection of Jiayan's brainwave power, the defensive power of his battleship is not comparable to that of the other battleships. Therefore, as soon as it rushes into the entire battle circle, this powerful battleship is like a wolf among sheep, pounced on that ship, the dangerous 015 ship, no enemy can stop it. Haha, so happy. Jiayan looked at the rapidly approaching battleship of ours, and with a fierce thrust, he actually crashed into a battleship of the Rongbo fleet that was standing in front of him. Under the protection of his brainwave power, the entire one-man battleship exerted extremely terrifying armor power, and its attack power was also greatly enhanced. Apart from its lack of long-range attack power, it was simply invincible. This is the strength of a strong man operating a battleship. The only thing the other party did wrong before was not taking advantage of Jiayan to enter the twisted space and destroy his spaceship. Of course, this is also it has something to do with the fact that the other party thought that the winner must be Rongbo, and that the giant Mosquito fleet was interfering. How is it possible? Where is Lord Rongbo? Lord Rongbo didn't come out. Could it be that Lord Rongbo was really defeated and died in the twisted space explored by our fleet? Impossible. With such a heaven-defying geographical advantage, how could Lord Rongbo might we still lose? In the command ship of the opposing fleet, Rongbo's deputy was in an extremely panicked situation. He had not expected the appearance of the Mosquito at this moment. After all, no one would guess that his coach would fail. And Rongbo didn't show up, which brought huge consequences to the other members of the entire fleet. Lord Rongbo was defeated. Did Jiayan, a strong man, even defeat Lord Rongbo? Just look at it. Lord Rongbo might be able to destroy 100 of our warships by himself if he controls the warships. Now Jiayan is on his own with the help of the fleet. Aren't we in danger? What you said is too far. Without Mr. Rongbo, there is no possibility of institutional resistance in our fleet. I think we should escape. With our understanding of the Chaos Star territory over the years, we might not be able to create our own here. The situation is better than dying with that adjutant in this fleet. Run! Run! Just in time, Jia Yan jumped in front of the 015 ship that was about to die with the enemy, and gently caught the entire out-of-control warship with his own warship. He suddenly discovered that he had not done anything at all, and even when the enemy's warships had not been destroyed more than 10, the enemy actually started to disintegrate. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 617. Sir, the remnants of the great thief Rongbow's fleet were completely dispersed. Among them, 221 surrendered, 20 were destroyed by us, and most of the others fled deep into the starry sky. Because I am not familiar with the terrain, I strictly forbid the fleet is in pursuit. Well done. In a seemingly ordinary battleship, Mosquito and Kama had a meeting. At this moment, the battle in the starry sky has gradually ended. With the arrival of Jia Yan, the giant Mosquito fleet actually reversed the defeat in one breath and defeated the entire Rongbow fleet. In fact, everyone knows that this was the self-defeat after the opponent's leader was killed by Jia Yan in one fell swoop. If they had a strong man with certain authority like Rongbow sitting in charge, it's hard to say who would win and who would lose. Or should I say, whether the giant Mosquito fleet can escape is a question. With this great victory, the giant Mosquito fleet, which originally only had about 100 warships, expanded to more than 220 warships in one fell swoop. All of them were superior warships that surpassed the giant Mosquito fleet. In terms of the overall strength of the fleet, it can be said to be a huge improvement in one breath. Boss, if it weren't for your help, we wouldn't have been able to win. It's true that only under the hands of a strong man like you can a powerful fleet appear. Kama looked at Jia Yan, with an excited blush on his face. You must know that she once again experienced the feeling of failure in the previous battle. Karma is no stranger to this feeling. A few years ago, she fled the deserted galaxy because of a failure. She had thought that she would encounter a similar defeat again, but she never expected that her newly recognized boss would actually reverse the defeat with her own strength. For Karma, this kind of battle was something she had never experienced before. It was also the first time that she felt the sense of security protected by a strong person. Haha, you are also good at commanding. Although I don't understand commanding, even I can see your commanding art very clearly. It is more than one level higher than those ordinary captains. Jia Yan smiled brightly. He complimented Karma in return, since complimenting people doesn't cost money anyway. In fact, it is not wrong to boast. In this offensive and defensive battle, the giant Mosquito fleet was able to avoid losing a single battleship even though it was almost 10 times smaller than the enemy. When Jia Yan turned defeat into victory in one fell swoop, Kama's commanding ability was indispensable. You must know that she commanded a group of unfamiliar subordinates to engage in a close combat. By the way, sir, the other party's commander was caught just now. He was unlucky. The battleship had a small chance of engine failure at a critical moment. I hope you can meet him in person. This commander's abilities are definitely not as good as mine. Underneath, his previous command was blocked by me because the other party used the Karanger tactic. Well, I don't understand, right? The meaning of the Karanger tactic is that when the enemy's army is completely annihilated, oneself also there's not much loss. If you hadn't appeared, boss, his tactics might have been successful, Kama said. Oh. So this commander's commanding ability is not bad. Okay, let him come over. I just want to ask about Rongbow's exploration of this starry sky. When Jia Yan heard this, suddenly I became interested. Not long after, a creature that looked similar to an ordinary earthling was brought to Jia Yan. Hello, Lord Jia Yan. My name is Mok. The creature has a dragonfly-like appearance, and its pair of big compound eyes seem to contain some different emotions. Haha, I was thinking about a question just now. Now that I see you, I understand. You were caught on purpose, right, Jia Yan did not respond to the other party's words, but said lightly. The dragonfly monster named Mok was suddenly shocked. Don't rush to refute. I'm not as good at commanding the fleet as you are, but that doesn't mean I'm a fool. As for your matter, I just took a look at it. When your battleship was escaping, it fell on purpose. The rear, especially in the area where our warships are pursuing the most intensely. To Kama, it seems to be a coincidence, but to me, it all makes sense. Jia Yan looked at the other party with a smile. Said. This dragonfly-like monster was stunned for a moment, then shook his head resignedly, and said with a wry smile, sure enough, Master Rongbo did not lose unjustly. With his mind alone, he is no match for you. Jia Yan did not answer directly. To be honest, Rongbo had a good mind, so he was a little unhappy that the leader of the monster turned around and looked down on him just before he died. Tell me, what did you want to do when you were caught on purpose? Jia Yan asked softly. When the other party heard Jia Yan ask this question, his heart was shocked, as if he felt that all his thoughts were being seen through by the other party, and he immediately did not dare to hide it. Sir, regarding Rongbo, no, Rongbo, I have long been dissatisfied with him. He is strong, but he is too old and his structure is too small. He only wants to achieve success in this chaotic star field. Stellar level. Unfortunately, my family and life are in his hands, so if I don't work for him in the past, the end will be very miserable. Just now, my lord, you bravely killed Rongbo. I had a plan at that time. He is loyal to a powerful and young man like you, so he deliberately got caught. I wonder if your excellency can take him into custody. Jia Yan looked at the opponent's compound eyes. Although both sides had compound eyes, the giant mosquito looking at the other person's figure was like a giant dragon looking at a tiny human being. At this moment, there was a look of disdain in his eyes, but after thinking about it, this was also human nature, and it was also a good thing for the other party to abandon the secret and turn to the bright side and join him. However, even if this monster has good abilities, his status in the future will definitely not surpass Kama. After all, his rebellious Jia Yan sees it, and he must at least go through something to confirm his loyalty before he can be of any use. Well, since you think so highly of me, Jia Yan, then you can temporarily serve as the supreme commander of a column in my giant mosquito fleet. Later, you will go out to assist Marshal Kama and transfer the Rongbo fleets. The surrenderers will be broken up and organized into several large ships for operation. I hope you won't disappoint me. After finishing speaking, a terrifying brainwave power came out of Jia Yan's body, suppressing the opponent's body surface to rattle and almost completely shattered. Sir, you must be loyal, the dragonfly-like monster said quickly. That's good. Now don't rush. Tell me the secrets in the center of the Chaos Star territory that Rongbo has mastered. I'm sure he's not hiding anything from you. Jia Yan calmly relaxed his brainwave power. The dragonfly monster felt the pressure on his body lighten, and the soreness all over his body made him unable to even stand steadily. Sir, Rongbo doesn't actually have much trust in me. I don't know much about the central area. However, I still know roughly the past route and the way to navigate freely in this chaotic star field. If you are not willing, sir, I can serve as the guide of the fleet in the future and guide the fleet to the central area safely. However, the danger in the central area is extremely great, and the danger there is beyond my control. Okay, you will lead the way during the introduction, as well as your family, Rongbo's lair, etc. You will tell them later, and go with Kama to receive them, Jia Yan said lightly. Mok's eyes flashed with horror, and he was even more afraid of Jia Yan. The other party's seemingly indifferent words showed that he wanted to bring his family to the fleet, but in fact he was using them as pawns to threaten him. Mok let out a long sigh in his heart, and after continuing to tell Jia Yan about the Chaos Star territory, he left. I asked why my senses were not very good for this Mok when we first met. Now I think about it, this guy is very similar to a dragonfly. My mosquito race naturally hates dragonflies. Jia Yan looked at the other person. The somewhat depressed and departing figure smiled in his heart. This MOK's help is not insignificant. With him, the entire giant mosquito fleet has a much better understanding of the Chaos Star territory, and some safety issues have also been improved. The more important help is that MOK can easily control the surrendered Rongbo fleet members, because he is the commander of these members. The giant mosquito fleet, which had doubled its fleet in an instant, turned into a fleet that was not even a small fleet, heading towards Rongbo's lair. Jia Yan had always been indifferent to matters related to navigation. He gradually became completely relieved about Kama, especially after she showed her strong command ability. Jia Yan even acted as a hands-off boss and left almost everything to her. Got her. As for some minor matters, Harola of the Kudatan tribe takes care of them, so Jia Yan doesn't have to worry about it at all. While marching in a group, a large fleet of more than 300 ships slowly flew towards the outside world. On the periphery of the space-distorted area, the fleet's entire body emitted a powerful light, then broke away from the interstellar range and left directly. Okay, it took almost 10 days here, and another 10 days to go to Rongbo, and then to the central area. No matter how fast it is, it will take at least a month. I don't know if the old monster can hold on. Live. Crouching in his battleship, Jia Yanfu looked at the huge camp-class spacecraft outside the ship with some worry in his eyes. Lao Suao there did not know life or death at the moment, and his waking hours were getting less and less every day. What Jia Yan knew was that during the previous battle, he still woke up and insisted on driving a warship to kill 3 or 4 enemy warships. If it weren't for his physical inability to hold on, he might have become an important part of the entire war. Hey, can he survive? Or let's talk about the life-extending stone. As long as he can persist to the central area, I will definitely help him look for it. I just hope he can persist there, Jia Yan observed Suao. After paying attention, I stopped paying attention to Suao. He has a lot of things of his own to do. I don't know if that great existence is still observing me, but she said that she was paying attention to me because I had a slight possibility of being promoted to her level. Jia Yan felt a little confused when he thought of this. Be excited, you must know that this great existence, no matter what, is beyond his imagination. It can be said to be the most terrifying existence that Jia Yan has seen so far. Her strength may even exceed the category of stellar powerhouses. These beings said that their previous observations of Jia Yan were because he might be promoted to the same level as the other party. Even a little suspicion was enough to keep Jia Yan excited for a while. But she also said that she was a little disappointed with my progress. And my performance was no longer enough for her to continue to pay attention? Think about it, I haven't changed much since Grey Star. I have always relied on the physical advantage of the evolved beast is in fighting, but this is also because I have no direction to learn combat skills. Jia Yan was a little helpless. Although the opponent no longer paid attention to him, it was a happy thing for him, but the reason for not paying attention is because he has no potential and is not worthy of the other party's attention, which is a bit depressing. No. Even if she is disappointed with me, I will definitely go further in the future until I am truly as powerful as her. It will surprise her, Jia Yan comforted himself a little fiercely. Of course, Jia Yan still doesn't know how terrifying it is for existences above the stellar level. Even if he swears at this moment, he is just furious in his heart. Whether he is really confident to reach that level, Jia Yan himself doesn't know. But for Rongbo's battle, I seem to have a vague feeling about some experiences of strong men fighting. In the past, my battle was too smooth. During this period, for the 5 powerful men, and for Rongbo, my bursts didn't have much effect, and even the stabbing with my forefoot didn't take effect in one go. This is a battle between strong men. At this level, fighting is not that simple. But such a battle, but it made my combat experience improve very quickly. After watching these battles of mine, why is that great being still disappointed in me? Is it because I am not improving fast enough? Or for her, my fighting path is simply in the wrong direction? Jia Yan's thinking and brains are not too bad. Through some superficial phenomena, he can deeply analyze more essential things. At this moment, he thought that that great existence seemed to look down on the improvement in combat that he was now complacent with. Otherwise, how could he be so disappointed that he would stop paying attention to him? I must have made a fundamental mistake somewhere. Where exactly? Is that great existence dissatisfied with the direction of my progress? Or is it dissatisfied with my ability to evolve? Jia Yan kept thinking with some exploration. The other party is a great existence. Jia Yan knows that the other party is strong to an extent that he cannot even imagine. When it comes to evolutionary beasts, the other party may not really like it, because if the evolved beasts are really so powerful, then the entire starry sky will have long ago. They are all extremely powerful evolved beasts. That's right. I must have made a mistake in the direction of the evolved beasts. As I thought, if the evolved beasts were really so defiant, the terrifying existence of the evolved beasts would have left legends everywhere in the starry sky. Yes, but so far, I haven't heard any legends about evolved beasts in this starry sky, let alone great-level evolved beasts. Jia Yan seems to have grasped the key. So where did I go wrong? Did I rely too much on the mutation of the evolved beast? Or is it some other reason? He kept thinking. The emergence of that great being this time was a crisis and an opportunity for the Mosquito. Through the other party's words, Jia Yan analyzed that there must be some problems in his current path, but these problems are not so easy to solve. For him, generally speaking, the current situation is that the crux can't be found at all. This kind of problem cannot be solved in a moment. The big Mosquito is still struggling, sailing on the battleship. Sir, Rongbo's lair has arrived. Just when Jia Yan had exhausted all his thoughts and almost reached a dead end, he suddenly heard the voice from Harola. Are you here? It turns out that 10 days have passed. Jia Yan came back from his thoughts and shook his head. As for Karma and the others, there may be some defenses in the other party's lair. If she needs me to take action, let her speak up, he said softly. No need, sir. The opponent's defeated team obviously arrived here faster than us. Most of the materials and personnel have been looted by them. Only some unimportant things are left. Fortunately, the families of the surrendered members did not show up. Damage, they must not want to continue to go against you, Sir Harola said to Jia Yan, who wanted to get up. Jia Yan, who was about to get up, suddenly shook his head in disinterest when he heard this, and knelt down again. He wanted to move so that he could clear up the chaotic thoughts in his head, but it was a pity that the other party did not give him a chance. Well, since there are no surprises in the situation here, let's prepare the fleet members to prepare for entering the depths of the Chaos Star territory, he said. Yes, sir, I will inform you right away, Harola agreed, knowing that Jia Yan wanted to continue his cultivation, so he quietly left. For this Kuditan, his ability is increasingly insufficient to interfere in political affairs. After all, if he is really capable, the previous Kuditan people will not become inferior to Tianlong under his leadership. It got to such a miserable state. However, his status is still very high, because he is the first force leader in the entire star field to take refuge with Jia Yan, and it is rumored that he once rescued Jia Yan, so even if his status does not matter big things, his words are still he is extremely authoritative, not to mention that Jia Yan often passes orders through him, which further consolidates his position. Rongbo's somewhat damaged old lair was turned upside down again by the giant Mosquito fleet, leaving only an empty shell. It may be who knows how many years before new forces move in. And after having done all this, the giant Mosquito fleet started moving again. After several days of running in, and with the control of MOK, the surrendered members of the Rongbo fleet were quickly integrated into this fleet. You must know that the number of these members is twice that of the giant Mosquito fleet. Yu was commanded by a smaller number of giant Mosquito fleet members and did not resist at all, which surprised the giant Mosquito. But after thinking about it for a moment, he figured it out. These members of Rongbo's fleet all joined the fleet because of Rongbo's personal strength, and they lived in the bitter cold and closed chaotic star field. They have made many grievances for a long time. Now that the big Mosquito controls them again, and Jia Yan's goal is the extremely complex northern star field, they naturally will not resist. Anyway, they have nothing to do with Rongbo's fleet. Deep feeling. Of course, the big Mosquito is somewhat wary of this, and he plans to discuss it with Kakian in the future to strengthen the sense of belonging among fleet members. But now is not the time to talk about that. On the 10th day after the fleet continued to fly, after a few days of acceleration, and adapted to the larger scale collective acceleration, an extremely huge light curtain appeared in front of the entire fleet. This is not a man-made creation, but a miraculous work of nature. This is an extremely broad spectacle that looks like a colorful waterfall. It seems to connect the entire starry sky for several light years, wrapping the entire area behind it. The entire world seems to be isolated from the outside world. It can be said to be extremely rare in the universe. What a weird sight! But behind the light curtain is what the public calls the Chaos Star Territory Center, and that is where the real danger of the entire Chaos Star Territory is, and it is also the most magical area in the entire Chaos Star Territory. In the past, I don't know how many fleets have explored and adventured in this mysterious area, and I don't know how many lives have been swallowed up in it. And today, another huge fleet came here to face this vast area, wanting to enter it and make an attempt. The fleet is ready to enter the central area of the Chaos Star Field and break into the diaphragm to accelerate the jump data acquisition process. Everyone is ready for impact. When entering the reverse pole of the diaphragm area, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breakthrough begins. Today's chapter has a little more words, so I'm sorry for the late update. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 618. Along with the jets of flames, the entire cosmic area was completely filled with bright battleship thruster flames. More than 300 battleships accelerated together and charged towards the vast light curtain in front of them. It looked very spectacular. The first battleship, as the lead ship, bore a huge impact. When it hit the light curtain, the entire light curtain shook like a wave. However, this light curtain was obviously not that simple. It just shook and then there was no other movement, and a huge wave of energy rose up, almost bouncing the entire battleship back. Fortunately, the warships behind came one after another. The second ship completely knocked away the light curtain, and the third and fourth ships even broke up the entire light curtain. It was easier for the warships behind to break in. Fleet ships moved forward one after another, entering the strange and mysterious area. In the entire fleet, there is a warship that does not look much different from other warships. However, all the surrounding warships respect it very much. They have left a large space next to the area where it passes, seeming to welcome them along the way. Like a leader. This fleet is the giant Mosquito fleet, and the one-man battleship piloted by Jia Yan is what the surrounding ships are in awe of. At this moment, he was looking at the surrounding scenery in the battleship. Because the entire fleet was operating in a coordinated manner, he did not need to operate at this time and could fully appreciate the scenery above. His battleship passed through the center, and there was no feeling of vibration around it. However, in his opinion, some of the surrounding battleships were shaking violently, but this shaking was not too big if it was distributed to each battleship. Hazards. It is indeed the core of the chaotic area. The peripheral areas we have experienced before cannot be compared with it. Jia Yan looked at the surrounding scenery and sighed in surprise. The fleet continued to move forward, and the entire fleet showed an attitude of rushing in. However, after the fleet broke into it, its speed still dropped from a very high level to only 1% of the speed of light. Fortunately, the entire fleet broke in safely, which is also the benefit of the large fleet. If it were the previous 100 warships, it is estimated that there would be more problems with the power system of the ships that broke in. Sir, I no longer understand the area ahead. When I went from the northern star territory to the desolate galaxy, I walked all the way to the outer reaches of the Chaos Star territory. I suggest that the command be given to MOK. He knows much more about this place than I do. Kama's communication request came. Jia Yan thought for a while and then agreed. Yes, but you must have the power to take back command at any time, otherwise it will be troublesome for the other party to make some tricks. After turning off the communication, Jia Yan began to observe the changes around him. There's not much difference after entering the interior. The starry sky is still the starry sky, but the energy around it is stronger. The big mosquito is the most sensitive to energy changes in the entire area. At this moment, he could feel a kind of terrifying energy densely spreading in the surrounding cosmic area. For Jia Yan, even he was frightened by the sense of energy in some directions. Fortunately, my sense of energy seems to be stronger than that of these native creatures. Approaching those dangerous areas can remind them to leave, Jia Yan thought. The dangers of the Chaos Star territory are mysterious to everyone in the entire star territory. Even through the strong men or fleets there, no one can guarantee that they can save their lives if they enter it again. Jia Yan is not afraid of the danger here because he is confident in his own strength, but for the entire fleet, he is not very sure that he can take them out intact. Sir, there is a strong spatial distortion ahead, which is more than 10 times stronger than the distortion area encountered in the outer area. Do we need to take a detour? A moment later, Namoke sent a communication request. Bypass it? This basic judgment will be left to you and Karma from now on, so you don't need to ask me, Jia Yan said softly. Okay, Mok's voice was cut off. It sounds like the other party is looking for an opportunity to get close to Jia Yan. After all, he is a former enemy. If he wants to seriously work under Jia Yan, he must have a good relationship with Jia Yan. Of course, this kind of basic interrogation was not necessary. No matter how stupid Jia Yan was, he would not be able to issue an order for the entire fleet to charge towards the extremely dangerous Twisted Land, so he only communicated to show his face in front of Jia Yan. However, this monster has this kind of intention, which can be considered satisfactory to Jia Yan. After all, if he doesn't even want to build a good relationship, then he really has to doubt his intentions. The entire fleet maintained a speed of 1% of the speed of light and made a large circle forward. Sir, what's wrong? There is an asteroid field right in front of the distorted land. It was clearly not there when I came in last time. Mok's nervous voice came out, but this time it was no longer about making friends, but a real crisis. Is there no way to avoid it? Jia Yan also became solemn. There is no way to avoid it. The entire area ahead is covered with small interstellar matter. Although our speed is not fast, it is still 1% of the speed of light. There are two options now. One is to continue to maintain this speed and move from a small angle, impacting the entire interstellar material area, but this option is too dangerous. The second option is to reduce the speed with all your strength. As long as the speed is reduced, there is no danger at all even if it hits it. However, if the speed is reduced too fast, it will affect the entire fleet. The engine is damaged, and the method you choose is up to you. Karma's voice interrupted. Encountering such a crisis just after entering the core area of Chaos Star territory is simply a disincentive. Jia Yan thought, a little depressed. He thought for a moment and felt that there were too many dangers in the entire core star field. If they did not reduce their speed, they would encounter greater dangers in the future. After all, even at 1% of the speed of light, it can no longer be underestimated. Hitting something would be enough to destroy the entire fleet. It's better to slow down. After all, it's too dangerous at the moment. It didn't take long for Jia Yan to make a judgment. It seemed that Jia Yan's judgment had been known for a long time. The two temporary commanders did not hesitate much and went directly to convey the order. Perhaps it was because the two sides did not distinguish between strong and weak in the last battle. At this moment, Kama and Mok were somewhat at odds. They both informed each ship very efficiently, and both of them unconsciously carried out the battle between the former members of the giant Mosquito fleet, and the newly surrendered fleets were separated and assigned separately. Of course, the members of both sides have long been separated. At this moment, there is no explanation of the old faction and the new faction. Each of them takes orders from his or her superior. With their efficiency and a series of correct commands, the fleets on both sides began to slow down at almost the same speed. The number 5 group column has signs of engine overheating and needs column number 3 and number 6 to assist in slowing down. But you should also be careful and don't let the engine overheat or become abnormal. The marching direction of column number 7 is tilted. What did the column commander do? Why did the whole column tilt like this? Pull it back quickly. You must know that it is marching quickly. If you tilt the direction of travel a little now, the entire column will be tilted in a moment. The column was out of control. Voices came out from the mouths of the two commanders. As master commanders of their respective regions, they actually fought to a close. Fortunately, the relationship between the two parties is still close. After all, both of them work under Jia Yan. Although their respective subordinates have slowly formed factions over dozens of days, they even look like they don't like each other. But it is a good thing to have appropriate competition in a group. Jia Yan also turned a blind eye to their matters. At this moment, it seems that both sides are competing to see who is doing better. The being who was scolded has his face heated up and vows to do better next time. This is how a healthy competition arises. Under rapid deceleration, there were almost 3 warships with engine problems. The others needed to be slowly inspected at a slow speed, which was considered maintenance. Fortunately, there was no need to rush forward in a hurry. For the entire fleet, in other words, this loss is almost negligible. In the starry sky, more than 300 ships were traveling at a slow speed through a series of interstellar materials. Together, the 300 ships directly knocked away the small interstellar materials in front of them, and those huge ones was destroyed by artillery fire. It seems that these interstellar materials were formed in a very short period of time. Mok's statement is not wrong. Sir, I have seen his command ability in the past few days. He is indeed quite experienced. In addition to not having too systematic learning experience, I can't compare to him in terms of actual combat. Under the constant impact of interstellar matter, most of the battleships are shaking. After all, they are said to have slowed down, but in fact, the speed of the entire fleet at this moment is still extremely fast in the eyes of people on Earth. Every second it will happen at 7 or 8 kilometers, so collisions have become normal. Of course, a collision at this speed is not very dangerous for a battleship. Well, then you continue to observe him and tell me if there is anything unusual, Jia Yan said calmly. Okay, if nothing happens, I'll turn off the communication, boss. Kama's voice came from the communicator, and then the communication was turned off. Naturally, Jia Yan did not trust Mok so easily. Fortunately, the entire fleet had been dispersed, and the other party's family and business were in his own hands. As far as the Mosquitoes were concerned, Mok at this moment was not there is not much risk of betrayal. Time passed slowly. In the core area of the mysterious chaos star field, in this vast star field, there were only a very few ships that had left traces here. But at this moment, there is a fleet traveling smoothly among them, and there is no big crisis during the journey. It can be said to be a miracle. MOK, don't go through the area in front, go around it. Just as the fleet was traveling, a voice appeared in the communicator. Try to start 2 updates from today, each chapter is 3,000 words, totaling 6,000. I hope everyone can support it by subscribing to the official version. If the results are good, I will update like this every day, which is equivalent to 1,000 more words than before. To be continued. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 619. Yes, sir. The commanding officer didn't look surprised at all, and ordered his men to quickly turn the fleet he was commanding. In the entire turning column, some battleships were slightly closer to the forward area mentioned in the communication, and there was a slight vibration in the space, emitting light that seemed to be like lightning, and almost swallowed the battleship whole. It's so dangerous. It's Master Jia Yan's perception that saved several battleships. The commander looked at the critical situation of those battleships, and suddenly showed a hint of admiration with some fear. Regarding Jia Yan's strength, MOK had long known that the opponent's strength was unfathomable, but he didn't know that in addition to his strength, Jia Yan's perception ability was also so outstanding. In this extremely dangerous core area of Chaos Star territory, Jia Yan's words can save several ships every time. You must know that this is the core area of Chaos Star territory. I have never heard of anyone who can do this in the past. Here is the existence of seeking good luck and avoiding bad luck. If you have this ability for every area, then our giant mosquito fleet can't even think about it. So many mysterious places are within the reach of our fleet. Thinking of this, MOK's eyes flashing with joy. Why are you thinking so much? A robber is a robber. Even if he surrenders, he still has a robber mentality. Was on his side, a little disdainful of Mok's remarks. What did you say? Marshal, even if you are a marshal, if you discriminate against me, even if you file a lawsuit with Mr. Jia Yan, I will never end it with you. MOK suddenly flashed a fierce light. I hate a woman from the Bella clan, more and more, but her commanding ability is not inferior to his, and she had defected to Jia Yan earlier. Unlike him who has not gained Jia Yan's trust, he can only bow his head at this moment. In terms of real command ability, he really isn't afraid of Haha, if you want me not to discriminate against you, then you should show better thinking. You must first understand that Lord Jia Yan's goal is not Rongbo's thinking of becoming a robber. He is destined to be a robber in the future. Do you want to become a star-level powerhouse? A star-level powerhouse, going around to search for treasures in mysterious places? Real treasures are okay, but what is this Chaos Star territory? You must know that even in the Chaos Star territory, it's not very attractive to a star-level expert. Do you want him to waste his precious expert time on treasure hunting here? Do you want to harm me? Pressed down his hat with a big hat, suppressing Mok so much that he couldn't even lift his head. He wanted to refute that Rongbo also wanted to become a star-level powerhouse, but he swallowed his words when he reached his lips. People under the eaves have to bow their heads. What's more, compared to Jia Yan, who has reached the age of immortality and is more powerful than Rongbo at a young age, who is Rongbo? When it comes to becoming a starry sky level, Jia Yan's possibility is countless times stronger. This is also one of the important reasons why MOK joined Jia Yan's fleet. After all, the entire fleet is still in the running-in period at this time, and it is also a period of intrigue between the two commanders. After the mutual running-in is completed in the future, there may be fewer similar situations. The fleet is still moving forward, and he does have some means of seeking good fortune and avoiding evil in this chaotic star field, but he himself also discovered this means in the past few days. The reason for this situation is simple. The reason is that Jia Yan is a creature of Yingxian arm. When he came to this starry sky, he discovered the difference in energy here. This is like an outsider who has no understanding of the entire starry sky. The energy changes are more acute. Jia Yan is even more sensitive to the energy and space changes in the chaos star field. Not to mention his feelings about the energy changes in this star field, only that as an evolved beast, his perception of energy is instinctive. At this moment, he is not aware of these changes. Crisis, of course, is extremely scary to perceive. Thanks to his help, in the extremely dangerous area, the entire giant Mosquito fleet only lost one ordinary spaceship. The loss of the spacecraft was an accident. The performance of the spacecraft was originally incomparable to that of a battleship. When the interstellar matter hit it before, it suffered extremely horrific injuries. However, the subsequent repairs were not enough, causing a space crack to appear in it. It was impossible to escape at the time, and was torn into several parts later. The only consolation was that Jia Yan himself rushed out and rescued the escape boat. The casualties were only a few members of the pilot. Since then, the entire fleet has become more cautious, and at the same time has a greater sense of identification with the big Mosquito, especially those members who have just joined the fleet. You must know that Jia Yan rushed into the dangerous space distortion place to rescue ordinary crew members, so a strong man who loves his subordinates can make them swear loyalty to the death. In short, after a series of events, the entire fleet became more stable. Boss, there is an interstellar material with resources ahead. It looks like a large star that can form a sphere. Some of the fleet's energy sources are a little tight. I wonder if I can go up and see if there is any usable material. One day, Kama's communication request came through. Yes, but safety measures must be taken beforehand, and I have a vague feeling that there will be some extraordinary substances here. You might gain something if you go up there. Jia Yan looked at the huge planet that appeared in front of him through the video screen. A star like this, commanded Kama. Anything gained? Kama's eyes almost lit up when she heard Jia Yan's voice. Knowing Jia Yan's miraculous performance during this period, she had the slightest illusion that Jia Yan was a god. At this moment, after saying that there would be harvest on that star, Kama thought it was a sure thing. After Kama ordered several warships to leave the fleet and fly cautiously towards the star, Jia Yan didn't make the slightest move. Haha, I didn't expect that in this chaotic star field, you can easily encounter such a star. Jia Yan looked at the star in the distance with some emotion. The reason why he told Kama that he would gain something on this star was because he was so familiar with this star. Because it is the biggest contributor to Jia Yan's mutation, the star formed by the Chaos Stone. If it hadn't been through this kind of material mutation, how could Jia Yan have been able to tell that there was a treasure in this star from such a distance? Because he is so familiar with the feeling of this energy. But this star is far larger than the star in the deserted galaxy. It is almost the same as the moon in the solar system. If we collect all the chaos stones from this entire planet, how much can we sell them for? Jia Yan thought with some emotion. The chaos stone at this moment seemed to no longer be attractive to him, which meant that Jia Yan's mutation had reached a bottleneck. So he didn't feel any excitement about this entire planet's chaos stone. Besides, he wanted to take an entire planet's chaos stone material out of the chaos star territory. Not to mention them, even if we let the stellar old monsters think of a way, there is nothing they can do. Sure enough, just when Jia Yan was thinking about these things, Kama's excited voice came from the communicator. Boss, it's actually a chaos stone, a whole planet's chaos stone. Boss, we've got it, Kama shouted with a smile. The role of the chaos stone is really great. Except for the evolutionary beast Jia Yan who uses it for evolution, other strong men or forces use it as energy, and it is energy that can be used directly without processing. Matter, it is said that this matter is related to the explosion of supernovae, which shows the purity of its energy. Marshal Kama, don't blame me for laughing at you. In the core area of the chaos star territory, such stars are everywhere. When we came in before, we found not even 10 but there was no way to take them out. Don't it is said that it is impossible to pull such a huge star. It is just that there is danger everywhere here. Do you have the confidence to take it out? Besides, there is the barrier from the outside world. For such a large star to protrude from the barrier, the energy required is simply no more than that of the entire planet. The energy of the stars is inferior. Therefore, for us now, we find that they are just a place to replenish energy. At most, they can be installed in the fleet and have no effect at all. Moke's sarcastic voice came out, bringing Kama, who was slightly dizzy with joy, from excitement back to reality. Kama, you ordered them to collect only the essence. This Chaos Stone will be helpful to our fleet, at least as energy for propulsion. And MOK, you are too rude to the Marshal. You must change it in the future. Jia Yan is like a judge, making a notarized judgment on the conflict between the two. Not long after, some of the essence of the Chaos Stones were sent to Big Mosquito. Sure enough, the essence is not of much help to me anymore. Perhaps that great being told me that it is impossible to rely on mutation to advance to the star level. Jia Yan looked at the huge Chaos Stone essence sent to him by several members of the collection team. He felt that apart from some unnatural absorption reactions, his body did not have any desire to devour it. He was a little surprised. Chaos Stone was already an extremely good mutated substance among the general substances in the universe. If he didn't have any desire to absorb it, then Jia Yan couldn't think of any other choice among the available substances. There must be materials stronger than Chaos Stone, but they are either composed of materials such as white dwarf stars, or materials in the center of stars. This kind of thing is difficult for a Big Mosquito to see, and it is simply unrealistic. And now the scene where the Chaos Stone is of no help to him represents his biggest doubts about himself, and it finally ends with a less than ideal result. Jia Yan's transformation into a stellar level might not be so simple. To see the extremely precious Chaos Stone from the outside world, cannot be obtained on a large scale, and the entire fleet is a little depressed, so all the ships in the entire fleet are working hard to load. If Kama hadn't seen that some warships were overloaded, it would definitely affect the next battle. If they were stopped quickly, they might just fill up the entire fleet. After loading, the giant Mosquito fleet looked a little bloated and continued to set off. What they saw afterwards made the entire fleet speechless. Just as MOK said, in the core area of the Chaos Star territory, Chaos Stars are everywhere here. Their previous loading actions were no different from fools. With Jia Yan's help, the entire fleet moved more and more smoothly. Even MOK and other Rongbo fleet members who had been to the core area were a little surprised by Jia Yan's ability to guide the fleet. Under his guidance, the entire fleet passed through dangerous areas without any danger. Finally, on the 27th day after breaking through the light barrier, an extremely huge star appeared in front of us. Sir, we have arrived at the core area, one of the most mysterious and treasure-rich places, MOK's voice sounded. Oh? This is, the so-called mysterious place. Kama was on her side, and you could tell her shock just by listening to her voice. On the other end of the communicator, Jia Yan's extremely surprised words came out in also some surprise. Here, is this actually like this? How could such a star exist? It completely violates the laws of physics. It is impossible for it to exist. At the same time that Jia Yan sent out the communication, in the camp-level spacecraft of the Nakudatan clan, an old monster that had been crouching for an unknown length of time also opened its eyes at the same time. Haha, we're here indeed, he said with a faint smile. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 620. Jia Yan and the soldiers who had never seen this place were not surprised. It turns out that what is in front of the entire fleet is a terrifying planet that looks almost endless and seems to be larger than a star. The composition of this planet is material similar to that of an Earth-like planet. It is theoretically impossible for such a large member to exist on an Earth-like planet. This planet is completely beyond their knowledge. Even Jia Yan, a visitor from the alien space who had seen many strange things, was dumbfounded by the strangeness of this planet and felt inexplicably shocked. The diameter of this planet is about 1.5 million kilometers, which is larger than the Sun of Jia Yan's parent galaxy. Theoretically, it is impossible for such a huge star to appear, because its huge size will inevitably cause its own gravitational collapse, forming a black hole or becoming something like a white dwarf. But this planet happened to appear, and it was also displayed in front of everyone. The gravity on the surface of the planet is only 5 times that of the Earth. This is simply impossible, Jia Yan thought with some surprise as he looked at the data from the remote mapping on the battleship. Even if Jia Yan has no astronomical knowledge, he still knows about this kind of general physical science. No matter why such a terrible star exists, it is almost impossible to just say that the surface of this planet has only 5 times the gravity of the Earth. Possible things. Sir, let me explain to you. This mysterious place has formed a wonderful balance due to the abnormal space around it. Therefore, it can become so huge. This is a huge star that can only appear in similar places. Mok's voice reached Jia Yan's ears, answering his doubts. Before long, the entire fleet began to assemble. More than 300 spaceships, like densely packed ants in space, formed a beautiful formation with great courage. At the center of more than 300 ships is a huge ship with a length of 2 kilometers. The Kudatan Camp-class spacecraft is equipped with offensive and defensive weapons. It is slowly becoming the headquarters of the entire fleet. Its actual combat capabilities, it may not be much more powerful than an ordinary battleship, but it still becomes the center because of its unique status. In the camp-level spaceship at this moment, Jia Yan had a meeting with Kama, Harola, Mok, and other senior officials of the giant Mosquito fleet. Looking down at the huge formation of nearly 1,000 creatures of all kinds, just the captains and adjutants of each ship, Jia Yan felt a little dazed. To be honest, he did not expect that he would one day have such a huge fleet. In fact, in technological civilizations with strong people, this is a common sight. For ordinary life, the existence of strong people cannot be compensated by technology. As a strong person, the true meaning of being strong lies in the fact that there is a lot behind them. There may be a powerful force attached to it, and the representative of the powerful force is the fleet. To be honest, the existence of Jia Yan's giant Mosquito fleet is too weak compared to equally powerful existences. Just like Jia Yan, any existence on the top of the starry sky can pull up such a team, but Jia Yan and them, the difference is that it is not easy to have 2 lieutenants with strong command in a team casually formed by strong men. After all, ordinary captains are easy to find, but experienced and highest level commanders are hard to find. Moreover, the subordinates of Rongbo whom Jia Yan later admired had richer combat experience. Together with Mok, a good command leader, this can be regarded as greatly eliminating the need for future expansion of the giant Mosquito fleet. You must know that there are 300 ships like this. Ships are no longer a small force in the outside world. Not to mention the strength of a top star like Jia Yan, just 300 well-equipped warships, sometimes even a top force will be afraid. Jia Yan felt as if he had picked up such a huge fleet, a big mosquito that had been alone all the time, and felt that he couldn't adapt to it all of a sudden. It's a shame that so many people are willing to follow me as a hands-off boss. Jia Yan looked at the assembled captains and adjutants of each ship, and finally realized how much influence a strong man has on a force. He has nothing. If you do anything, you will have such a huge fleet. This is the charm of a top powerhouse. For the entire fleet, a strong man like Jia Yan is also a huge help. A single top starry sky strongman cannot easily compete with a powerful fleet, but if this strong man has the help of another fleet, then the situation will be different. This is also an important reason why Jia Yan easily killed the Rongbo fleet without Rongbo with the help of the giant Mosquito fleet. Okay, now the fleet has arrived at the most important and mysterious area in the entire Chaos Star territory. You captains must have known for a long time that this mysterious planet is a very important part of our journey. Another member of our fleet, the Strong, must also obtain the life-extending stone here. There is no reason why I have called you here this time. In addition to telling you to be on guard, I also want to ask you something. Many of you are former subordinates of Rongbo. If you have any secrets about this place, no matter how small it is, please tell me. I would like to thank you all. Jia Yan is at the front of all the high-rise buildings. The largest module at the camp level, which is crowded with nearly 1,000 people, can hardly accommodate him. Therefore, the big Mosquito is retreating to one side of the area, with almost no place to stand. Sir, I didn't enter last time, but my spaceship is one of Master Rongbo's carrier ships, so I know a little bit about what Rongbo has harvested there. A 3-meter monster that looks like a spider stood up. He got up and showed some courtesy to Jia Yan. Sir, my spaceship is also one of them. It can be said that there are many treasures at that time. Mine is not bad either. I remember that some of his treasures were kept at my place. As the spider captain came out, a famous captain also stood up courteously. You must know that these captains have all surrendered before, so their loyalty to Rongbo cannot be high. Jia Yan, a starry sky level being who is more powerful than Rongbo, is definitely more eager to flatter him. After all, they all want to have a good position under this existence in the future. Anyone with a discerning eye can see Jia Yan's youth and future. Maybe in the godlike star level existence, such a young and powerful man will appear in a few years. If he doesn't make a fool of himself under him now, I'm afraid it will be even harder in the future. Okay, just tell me, what kind of treasures did Rongbo take from it? Jia Yan asked the spider captain. Amidst the envy and contempt of all his colleagues, the spider captain shook the steel hair on his body excitedly. The signs of fluctuations on his body revealed that he was actually a strong man at the peak of the heaven level. In a world where strong men were scarce, he is one of the more powerful ones among the giant Mosquito fleet. Sir, my battleship originally transported a batch of supernatural alloy stones, titanium heavy metal, lithium pure ore, and the mysterious specialty life-sustaining stone. The spider monster announced its name one by one. Every time it announced a name, some captains who wanted to take credit became unhappy. You must know that the supplies of each transport ship were similar at the time, and Captain Spider reported that they all carried similar supplies. Lord Jia Yan, there are two things on my ship that are different from them. A race that looks like an orangutan but is somewhat similar to humans jumped up. He is the captain of a former Rongbo battleship, and he is also the captain of the giant Mosquito fleet. Oh? Tell me what you are transporting. Jia Yan already had some knowledge of the supplies in that mysterious place, so he just asked absent-mindedly. What I transport is a batch of materials that are extremely precious even on that mysterious planet. That is a batch of top-notch materials that can be used as materials for the avatars of starry sky-level peak powerhouses. When I transported them out, I saw with my own eyes that Rongbo sold them to the top 10 powerful men at a high price, the orangutan monster said angrily. What? Jia Yan raised his head in shock and asked Chiyuan to talk about the magical things about the life-extending stone. He had already known about it, so he was not surprised. Now he heard the 10 things he had been calculating. The material for the clone of a powerful man actually originated here, so he was naturally shocked. But after the shock, it was great joy. Haha, your information is very useful. If a new column is established in the future, you will be the supreme commander of the column. Comma, remember it for me. Jia Yan was overjoyed and echoed comma beside him. Okay, Captain K-Scene has made a plan. If a new column is established in the future, you will be given priority. Congratulations, Captain K-Scene. Kama stood next to Jia Yan and said to K-Scene. Haha, thank you Lord Jia Yan, thank you Marshal Kama. The orangutan-faced monster was surprised and quickly saluted Jia Yan, and then also saluted Kama. Only the spider captain didn't catch anything, and he looked a little depressed. However, he was not discouraged. At least he showed his face in front of Jia Yan, who rarely appeared. I think if he has a chance next time, you will be promoted. Of course, the meeting was not only about exploring treasures, but also about studying and solving problems discovered by the entire fleet. If Rongbo was still alive and saw the giant Mosquito fleet holding such an insignificant meeting in the most dangerous area of the Chaos Land where he had been extremely frightened before, he might have vomited 3 liters of blood. What does such a relaxed attitude mean to him? Here, I feel extremely frightened by the fear of the unknown. The giant Mosquito fleet looks like it is now, just like an outing. Of course, the mood of the giant Mosquito fleet is not unreasonable, not only because many members have been here when they were members of the Rongbo fleet, but also because of Jia Yan's ability to seek good fortune and avoid evil. The death and injury control of the entire fleet is extremely powerful. First update, there will be a second update soon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 621. We have arrived at the most terrifying place in the Chaos Star territory, and the entire fleet still has less than double digits of casualties. The members of these 2 digits of casualties have also been mourned by the entire fleet. Coming to the Chaos Star territory, there is still such a strong sense of peace of mind. It feels like the entire giant mosquito fleet can't even think about relaxing. Okay, let's end the meeting. Next, I will enter the mysterious planet alone, and you will send a team of remotely operated robots to dig for minerals and grab rare treasures with me. There are some important things in Zhu Linchen's world. I will also deliver it in person. Everyone, please go back and select the robot control members who will come with me. Hurry up as soon as possible and let the meeting end. When Jia Yan gave the order, the captains in the entire meeting filed out one by one, knowing that they wanted to get to their own battleships as soon as possible. This is a rare opportunity to have close contact with Mr. Jia Yan when selecting his subordinates' remote operation masters. Most of them have good operating skills and have already thought about it. They must operate the robot themselves and follow Jia Yan. Go to that planet. Go and see if that old guy Suao is dead. If he's not dead, tell him to hold on for a while and I will bring him the life-extending stone. When all the staff were gone and only Jia Yan and Kama were left at the top level, Jia Yan said this to Kama. No need, Mr. Jia Yan, I will go down with you. I have been here once and am familiar with the terrain here. I think it will be helpful for you to enter. Just when Kama was about to answer, a strong breath of death came from the gate of the vast area, and a somewhat staggering figure limped into the sight of Jia Yan and others. Suao, Jia Yan was slightly startled. He didn't expect that this guy actually woke up. Of course, more importantly, the entire camp-level spacecraft was filled with his death aura, so even Jia Yan didn't notice him. Arrival. Mortal cultivation record. Sir, I am relatively sane now. I hope you can allow me to go with you. There are still some things I want to get there. Of course, I will definitely share them with you, sir, Suao said. Jia Yan took a deep look at this starry sky-level powerhouse. At the same time, this guy was also his only starry sky-level subordinate until now. You must know that starry sky-level existences are not so easy to attract. Even the top 10 powerhouses are in after operating in the deserted galaxy for so long. Each subordinate's starry sky-level existence does not exceed 10 fingers, which shows that it is difficult to attract starry sky-level powerhouses. It can be said that Suao and Jia Yan met by chance and relied on him. Now he has regained his sanity at the critical moment. For Jia Yan, he is an uneasy existence. Believe me, sir, I really won't have any evil thoughts towards you. If I, Suao, really survive, I still want to continue to serve you under your command. After all, you are a person who may reach eternal life as star-level warrior. There was a trace of sincerity in Suao's old expression. Jia Yan continued to look at Suao, and then he laughed lightly. Suao, come with me. I don't know what you want, but it must be something good. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for your permission, sir. When Suao heard Jia Yan's agreement, he suddenly showed a hint of joy and thanked Jia Yan quickly. Seeing the old guy Suao walking happily to prepare, Kama from behind said with some concern to Jia Yan, Sir, Suao's purpose is not clear, do you just believe him so much? Jia Yan looked at Kama, then shook his head slightly. Immortal Daoli has nothing but a twinkling of light in his compound eyes. Kama did not follow the path of a strong man, and he did not understand Suao's eyes, but for Jia Yan Suao's eyes were like a bright light, which also had some impact on his soul. You must know that this strong man, he had been wandering between life and death before, and even now he was just trying to stay alive. For him, nothing was as strong as his desire to survive. Jia Yan knew just by looking at the other party's eyes that the other party was definitely focused on how to survive at the moment. He believed that such an existence would not harm him, Jia Yan, and Suao's strength was very important to the current situation. As far as Jia Yan is concerned, it has long been nothing. If anything moved slightly, Jia Yan would be able to kill it easily. Of course, these words were inappropriate for Karma, so I had no choice but not to respond. All right, you go get ready. According to the knowledge that after we enter, this mysterious star will have some oscillating energy. If no defensive arrangements are made, the fleet may be damaged, Jia Yan said directly to Kama. After a whole day of preparation, the giant Mosquito fleet lingering outside the mysterious star finally made a move outside the huge and unparalleled planet. The entire fleet is getting closer to the star. If it were an ordinary huge star, they would never dare to get close to it easily. However, for this huge star with weak gravity, the entire fleet came close to a distance of almost 300 kilometers and felt a wave of it stopped after being attracted by gravity. The reason is that this huge planet does not have a very wide gravitational range. Just like its gravity is not large and has almost no impact on the surrounding interstellar matter. The distance is 100, the star radiation is at normal levels, and the active matter is disordered. The atmosphere of the star is chaotic, the material is unknown, and the surface of the star cannot be detected. Similar reports were broadcast throughout the entire fleet. Regarding the detection of the entire star, the giant Mosquito fleet collected a huge amount of data in one day. Of course, this information does not seem to be of any help to the landing of large mosquitoes. The remote-operated robot is ready. Sir, we can set off. Just outside that huge star, in the outermost area of the fleet, there are densely packed terrifying metal monsters. Each of these metal monsters is more than 10 meters long, with ferocious expressions, and some are even equipped with combat weapons. They are like an army of metal monsters. Jia Yanlai is somewhat resistant to the use of the metal monster army. After all, he has had some shadows about these things since his birth, but there is nothing he can do about it at the moment. There are more than 1,000 metal monsters around him. These metal monsters are different from the metal monsters Jia Yan has known before. Each of them is remotely operated by fleet members. And they are also experienced operators. You must know that they are all operational experts carefully selected from the more than 30,000 members of the giant Mosquito fleet. The strength of these metal robots varies. After all, they are rarely used in the entire fleet, so they even use robots dedicated to mining, and then they can barely gather 1,000-strong army. Of course, if let these thousands of troops go to deal with the so-called metal monsters that Jia Yan had to deal with in the past. They absolutely crushed each other one-sidedly, and their technological content was not at the same level at all. Get down. Jia Yan was right next to these metal monsters. After giving the order, he took the lead and flew downwards. Next to him was a monster more than 20 meters tall. At this moment, the monster's old aura revealed a hint of excitement. It flapped its wings and followed Jia Yan downwards. Who is Suao if not that old monster? Further behind the two, metal monsters of different shapes followed them like dumplings. In front of the entire fleet is that huge star. Its hugeness is almost indescribable. The fleet of more than 300 warships, which is only 100 kilometers away from the ground, is like a toy in front of this huge star. Look. The end of the earth is flat, and it feels like it is endless. And Jia Yan is even more like this. He doesn't think much of this weird star. If the other party's body is not balanced by various twisted spaces at the center of the entire chaotic star field, it will barely become a gravity that is only that of the Earth. 5 times as big as Jia Yan's. Just the gravity of such a huge star makes Jia Yan dare not approach it. The power must be extremely terrifying. If he falls into it, he will be directly crushed into pieces. Even the blue defense it won't have much effect. Fortunately, the opponent's gravity is not strong at this moment. In fact, if there is such a strong gravity, the first thing that cannot bear it is the star itself. More than 1,000 figures were like shooting stars, falling towards the starry earth. Sir, this is not a familiar area that I have come down before, so I don't know the specific situation below. However, it is much closer to the mysterious place I discovered before. I think it won't take many days for us to get there. Suao stood on Jia Yan's side, facing the flames caused by rushing into the star's atmosphere, and said to Jia Yan, "It's not an area you're familiar with? Then why did you lead me down from here?" Jia Yan asked, slightly uncomfortable. "Sir, don't you know what I mean? This planet is really too big. If I follow the same path from where I first landed, do you know how long it will take to reach me? A mysterious place? Haha, even if we travel in a straight line at our speed, it will take more than a day or two to do it. This planet is really too big," Suao said with some emotion. "That's true. I hope there's no danger in the area you're taking us to now." Jia Yan nodded clearly. He understood Suao's words. Even if he was confident in his speed, for a planet with a diameter of more than 1.5 million kilometers, even Jia Yan had no words. Isn't he fast? In the early days of the starry sky, it could reach tens to hundreds of kilometers from the Earth in 1 second. And now it is even faster. When flying at full strength, it is probably not much different from ordinary civilian spaceships. However, for a star more than 1 million kilometers away, it is still too slow. What's more, there are many places in this star that are extremely restrictive. In some places, even the power of brainwaves is limited. In that case, a little time can be saved. Here is the second update. I am not used to the 2 updates, so the second update will be late. I hope you don't mind. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 622. It is surrounded by an extremely dense atmosphere. The atmosphere of this star is also different from most Earth-like planets that Jia Yan knows. The entire atmosphere seems to be solidified material. When Jia Yan and his party broke through it, they felt an incomparable feeling. Terrifying blocking power. Just when they were trying their best to break through the thick atmosphere, Jia Yan's heart skipped a beat. Snapped. A loud voice resounded throughout the sky. Jia Yan was startled, and then he felt a flash of light that was as fast as lightning blasting out of his body. Careful! Before his reminder could be heard, a remote-controlled metal robot beside him burst into flames, and then its body fell to the ground with sparks flashing. Lightning. Jia Yan looked at the atmosphere. In the extremely dense clouds, lightning flashes continued to light up. Previously, the atmosphere above was too dense to be detected at all. "Sir, there was no lightning where I went before. No. Maybe I forgot. Alas, Na Suao said with some self-blame. It doesn't matter. This level of lightning won't have much impact on the starry sky level. Just be careful yourself. The robot's words don't matter, Jia Yan said lightly. Under the protection of the robot, the two bodies rushed directly into the dense atmosphere. After that, the two of them felt as if their bodies had been severely blasted by lightning. Boss, when we were investigating before, the lightning phenomenon on the surface of the planet was not so powerful. Just when you went down, it seemed as if some mechanism was activated, and the electric light appeared. Be careful. Kama's voice came from the communicator. Jia Yan had no time to respond to her. At this moment, many of the electric lights hit his body, but they were directly blocked by the body's defense. The armor Nezuo wore on the surface of his body also protected him. Even the robots with slightly better armor were not seriously damaged. Only some mining-level robots were short-circuited due to the electric light strike. The threat of the electric light was not great. After the group lost more than 100 slightly weaker robots, they fell to the ground. The whole world is gray. Jia Yan's body is like a mosquito, and he has no fear of darkness. But what surprises him is that there is light on the surface of this mysterious star. What glows are some scaly substances on the surface. They are like fireflies, spread all over the ground. Its color is cyan, and to Jia Yan, it makes the entire planet's surface look a bit weird. Sir, let's go over there. Of course, you can send a few robots to collect some of these luminous stones. They are also good minerals in the outside world, but for this star, they are insignificant. Suao looked at Jia Yan's surprised look at the scale stone and couldn't help but say. In the end, Jia Yan did not ask for the scaly stones, because Kama said in the communicator that these scaly stones are not uncommon materials in the outside world, but it is a bit strange that such things exist on the surface of the entire planet. Sir, the ore over there is a natural alloy and is of the best quality. If you need, you can ask the robot to collect it, Suao said to Jia Yan after passing by a piece of gray material. Okay, Jia Yan was very satisfied with having an experienced driver to lead the way. Although he encountered a little accident just after landing, the loss was not big. Now is the harvest time for those robots. Remotely operated robots collect minerals not far away. As an operation using the latest technology of quantum communication, these robots did not suffer much signal loss in an area of more than 100 kilometers, and for the operators above, the harvest at this moment was also the time for them to make meritorious deeds, so they didn't have much reluctance when collecting. After all, there were as many people as possible wanting to grab the job. Jia Yan watched one machine after another enter the alloy area, and then led another robot forward. The huge body of 50 meters seems to be nothing to mention on the planet that can't be seen at a glance. Not just Jia Yan, but even with the hundreds of robots around him, this army is small compared to the entire planet in front of him. They brought a gust of wind and sand forward. There is air on this planet, but it is not ordinary air, but a terrifying poisonous gas that is impossible for humans to endure. The heavy oxygen causes the entire planet's surface to experience unprovoked explosions. A robot accidentally collided with a stone on the ground while walking. With a bang, the entire air exploded. This explosion caused a series of detonations in the surrounding air, turning at least a 50-meter radius into ruins. Fortunately, the big Mosquito and Suao are not ordinary creatures, and such explosions cannot harm them at all. It was just that two robots that were relatively close to each other were affected by the energy of the explosion and were directly destroyed. The damage is not serious. Please be careful when operating. The situation here will cause greater harm to the robot. Suao and I have gone to another area. Just communicate with me about some important matters. When Jia Yan saw that the robot could not help him, he immediately decided to act alone with Suo Wu. Sir, this area is not too dangerous. It is a wise choice to keep them here. However, the warships sent to pick up the ore later need to be careful. The air and wind pressure here will cause some damage to the surface of the warships. Suao said. Well, and the others told me that they will be prepared. Now let's go to the magical area you mentioned. Jia Yan nodded. The two flew high into the sky. Jia Yan felt a little strange about the situation here. For him, although the state of the entire planet was weird, it was not too dangerous. For him, the entire planet except for a few areas that gave him a little energy boost. Apart from the sense of vigilance, there is no unnecessary feeling. Is this the most dangerous place in the Chaos Star territory that everyone talks about? As if seeing Jia Yan's doubts, Suao said to Jia Yan while flying, "Sir, the area we are in now is one of the few safe areas in the entire mysterious superstar. The predecessors were it here. I don't know how much blood and effort it took to find out so many safe areas, so those robots collected them safely there. Isn't it said that the Chaos Star territory is extremely dangerous and few forces have ever explored it?" Jia Yan asked strangely. "That's a rumor from the outside world. If you really study the news about this place, you can see that it's not that no forces have explored this place, but that the efforts and gains are out of proportion, so gradually no forces come. I know that most of the forces want to get here, and the previous dangers in the starry sky cannot be overcome as easily as our fleet. They don't have the ability to seek good fortune and avoid disasters like you." Sir Suao looked at Jia Yan with some emotion. He has now returned to most of his normal state, so he has great admiration for Jia Yan's abilities. Jia Yan was a little surprised. His expectations for this place were still very strong, but he felt a little uncomfortable when he heard that some forces had come to explore this place a long time ago. "Sir, don't be unhappy. The gains of those forces here are not great. Saying that the gains here are not proportional to the efforts is just an excuse for those forces. Not to mention anything else, it is just that this extremely huge planet, the areas they explore are even there is not even 1,000th of it, so how can you believe that there are no good things here? Even the place I want to take you to is a place that no force has ever been to, and only I know it." Suao's words restored Jia Yan's confidence again. But he was also a little strange about Suao's words. "Suao, when did you come here before and why did you come here? I have never figured out why you, a city lord in a deserted galaxy, took the risk to come here. And what force did you come with? Just like you said, yes, the dangers in the outside world are not something that ordinary forces can pass through." Jia Yan knows about his detection ability because he is an evolved beast and does not belong to this starry sky, so his sense of energy is better than that of ordinary creatures here. Only by being stronger can it be done. For ordinary strong creatures, without his two conditions, it is impossible to reach here safely. And Suao has been here before, and he has cooperated with a powerful force, at least a fleet-level force like Rongbo. After hearing Jia Yan's question, Suo smiled bitterly. "Sir, what should I say to you? I really envy you for your gift. We are different from you. When we get older, we will rush for our own life. I was also busy for my future life. Otherwise, who would come to this extremely scary place?" Jia Yan nodded thoughtfully. To be honest, he really couldn't understand the upper limit of lifespan. For an evolved beast, lifespan is almost not a problem. Some of the evolved beasts were either killed or died because they could not pass the mutation level. Of course, Jia Yan only found out after reading a lot of cultural relics during his time in Yingxian Arm that he originally thought that the evolved beasts were the number would be relatively large, but after actually looking at the information, I realized that the number of evolved beasts even in the immortal arm, the number recorded was less than 10 fingers. Anyway, every evolved beast has either disappeared or died, and none of them will die due to lifespan. The question he couldn't bring into Sao's topic. Allowing the robots behind to collect, Jia Yan and the two started to speed up and entered a distant area. The two huge monster bodies slowly escaped into the thick gas and gradually disappeared. Just when Jia Yan and the two reached a speed of 8 km per second and rushed into an area 5,000 kilometers away from the robot, Kama was suddenly startled among the battleships that were no more than 100 kilometers above them. At the same time, the communications soldiers on one side were also horrified.